Welcome, everybody. We're going to open our meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Amen. Born and unborn.
I just wanted to take a moment of silent prayer for the victims of the shootings in Texas and Ohio, and to recognize those Americans who lost their lives. All right, thank you, everyone. We have approval of minutes. First, we have approval of the June 17, 2019 regular meeting minutes. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved 5-0. Motion, approval of the June 17, 2019 executive session meeting minutes.
So moved.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved 5-0. Approval of the June 24th, 2019 executive session meeting minutes.
So moved.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved 5-0. Approval of the June 29th, 2019 executive session meeting minutes.
So moved.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved 5-0. Approval of the July 8th, 2019 executive session meeting minutes.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved 5-0. Approval of July 15th, 2019 executive session meeting minutes.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved 5-0. Approval of July 22nd, 2019 executive session meeting minutes.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved 5-0. And the July 29th, 2019 executive session meeting minutes.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved 5-0. Any announcements or presentations? We don't have any this evening. So I did want to mention, though, the Calamari Festival is going to be taking place on September 7th, 2019 at Veterans Park. So that's just after Labor Day. All right, so we're going to have our consent agenda. Does anyone on the council have an item they would like removed from the consent agenda? All right, seeing none. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved 5-0. Item 14 is a motion to approve the purchase of ammunition for the police department from AAA Police Supply in the amount of $12,956.
So moved.
Discussion. Any questions for the police chief? Anyone from the council? Anyone from the public? Yes. Just state your name and address for the record, please.
Catherine Celebrato, 48 Earls Court. I just would like to know how much ammunition we already have stockpiled and like how far would that go? I don't know too much about ammunition, but do we really need more ammunition? And also, where is all this ammunition stored?
Go ahead.
Just, to me, honestly, it seems like because it's available, we're buying it. It's like when I go to BJ's, because it's there and it's cheap, I just keep buying it. So I don't know a lot about ammunition, but I'd just like to know if you really think you need it.
We do need the ammunition. Here's a breakdown of what the ammunition will be used for. We have a couple thousand rounds still in our armory. This is going to be what's going to get us through the rest of the year. We shoot twice a year. We have to qualify. And then we'll need a couple thousand rounds for a new recruit in January. And then by our collective bargaining agreement, each officer is allowed 1 box of ammunition per month for practice purposes from April through October. For 7 boxes, a total of 40 officers. Adds up to 280 boxes. So we use all that ammunition throughout the year.
Chief, I had a question. You don't, you're using it. It's not sitting around, so you're not passing in old ammo, retrograde ammo. You're using up supply. Is that correct?
Yes. We,
Okay.
in addition to our qualifications and the training for new officers
Right.
and the practice ammo,
Understood.
we also have a warrant squad that trains monthly, and they
So
use
it's
ammo
used,
when
it's
they go
not
to the range.
retrograde sitting around in some garage
Nothing sits
somewhere.
around. It all gets
Correct.
used.
Understood. Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All
Aye.
opposed? Motion approved 5-0. A motion to approve the purchase of 3 new 2019 Chevrolet Tahoe four-wheel drive vehicles for the police department from Colonial Municipal Group in the amount of $111,214.35.
So moved.
Discussion, this comes from, if you would recall in the budget, we budgeted for 3 vehicles and the capital budget for the police. Any comments from the council?
Looks like Stanley wants to speak.
Any comments from the public? Stanley?
Yeah, normally I like to look at how many miles are on a vehicle, but I was told that sometimes that's not a really a prerequisite as far as, whether we need another vehicle or not. However, it seems like Chevys and Fords need a lot of repair, and it seems like, therefore, we always got to keep on buying trucks, cars, and maybe we should be looking at Toyotas or Hondas instead of Chevrolets and Fords, because I know my son, he did a lot of fixing on cars years ago, and he realized that Toyotas and Hondas just had a better repair record. They just seem to last a little longer. So, I don't want to have a capital plan that just automatically buys vehicles almost indiscriminately, And if we're going to do that, I'd like to see like a 20-year usage. Let's find a vehicle that can probably last 20 years because it's more reliable than the typical Chevy and Ford. And in the past, the Hondas and the Toyotas, we've seen them blossom because they're just more reliable. So I was hoping that we could kind of investigate that situation to make these vehicles last longer. Thank you.
Thank you. As I said, there's 2 to 3 of these vehicles. Go ahead, come forward. That we usually talk about in our budget sessions.
Just really quickly, I'm sure you guys did it, but 31 other cities and towns in this state, have you guys tried to, based on volume, worked with other police departments about possibly buying more vehicles with other people so we can get a better price?
What we do is, through our purchasing agent, we don't buy the vehicles with them, but we will ride on the bid of another larger department, such as Cumberland or Lincoln. They'll bid out on the cars that they're purchasing and get a good price, and then under our ordinances, we're allowed to ride in that bid and get the same deal that they get. So, or we can use the MPA for like Massachusetts. So they're bidding out the prices for everybody. Everybody pays the same price, and we ride off of that.
Oh, so there's no volume discount?
Yeah, I don't go as a Narragansett Police Department, say, give me a price for 3 cars. I'm going off a master agreement that they've bid it out for all the police departments.
Okay, all right. Appreciate it.
Mike,
Thank
did you
you.
go? Do you have a comment?
Just so everyone's aware, most of these purchases for these vehicles here are either through the Greater Boston Police Council or the National Fleet Auto Group, the National Joint Powers Alliance Purchase and Procurements. They're nationwide procurements, and these are direct purchases from the manufacturer. We're just going third party through the dealership, but they're essentially the pricing that we're getting is direct from Chevrolet or Ford or Dodge from the manufacturer themselves. Nobody can get a price any lower group discount than what we're getting right now.
Thank you. And anyone else? Oh, Catherine.
Catherine Celebrato, 48 Earls Court. I'm going to have to stop walking after this. I read the memo, and it seems that we do need 2 new police vehicles because the 2 of them that are going to be replaced are I guess costing a lot of money to keep on the road. But there's really no indication that we absolutely need a third vehicle at this time. And I'd like to see the money that is set aside for that vehicle be put toward a resource officer for the elementary school. Right now, we have a serious gap in security because we have 2 schools with a resource officer, AKA police officer, and the elementary school without a police officer who's going to be on duty during the entire school day, with a public bike path running behind the elementary school. I don't understand why this isn't a priority for the school committee, the police department, and the town council. I think this is a serious security issue. Thank you.
It is, and we have talked about that in the budget, and just so people are clear, the 2 resource officers we have do go to the 3 schools. So, but we are looking at next year's budget, and we've talked about it in this year's budget for a 3rd one. All right, anyone else? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved 5-0. Item 16 is a motion to approve the purchase and installation of new wood guardrail and posts in the south lot of the town beach from Costco Incorporated in the amount of $28,775 using the State of Rhode Island Master Price Agreement.
So moved.
Discussion. Anyone from the council? And this comes, I want to clarify the source of this funding. I thought it was Beach Enterprise Fund. Is that correct? All right. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved 5-0. Item 17 is a motion to approve the purchase of 1 new 2020 Chevrolet Traverse all-wheel drive from Colonial Municipal Group using the Greater Boston Police Council contract in the amount of $32,273.
So moved.
Discussion. Any comments from the council? All right, from the public? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved 5-0. Item 17 is a motion, item 18 is a motion to approve the purchase of 1 new 2019 International Model 7300 4x2 heavy-duty dump truck with 11-foot snowplow and sander with anti-icing system from Coastal International Trucks, LLC, using the Greater Boston Police Council contract in the amount of $205,469.
So moved.
Discussion. My understanding is there's been hydraulic issues on this truck 9 or truck 109 and rot to the chassis. Any questions from the council?
Yeah, if Mike could just give us an update, that'd be probably ease some fears here. Stanley.
Yeah, so the current truck, truck 109, is a 2005. It's not equipped with liquid or anti-icing like most of all of our newer ones are. So it's one of the older ones that we have in the fleet at the moment, even though it's a 2005. You know, it's one of GMC's series that they tried to bring back the big truck division in the early 2000s, and it just hasn't held up to what it should be compared to the internationals that we have now.
Right.
So we're having a lot of hydraulic problems with the sander, trying to get it correct. We're just throwing money after money after money trying to keep the sander correct, and it's just not, it's not worth the effort.
Mike.
How many trucks do we have the ability to do the brine right now?
With this truck, 7.
7 trucks, okay.
Mike, can you speak a little bit about the availability and the cost of the parts because this vehicle is so old, to try to find the parts if they're out there?
Well, GM doesn't make the big truck division anymore, so after 10 years, parts start to become scarce for these vehicles. There's aftermarket parts or salvage yard parts available, but they get tough. We have one other Sterling in the fleet that's an older one like this, and you can't get any parts for the Sterling at all anymore. That's one where you have to Frankenstein that one to keep it together.
Thank you.
Mike, real quick, the older truck that we're replacing, is that going to go to auction or?
It's going to go to auction. It still has, it'll get some worth at auction. Somebody will either utilize it the way it is, or or try and find some stuff to, and patch it together or whatnot. But for the type of work that we do, and it's just not going to last the way that we run them heavy on the roads and plowing and with the brine. And don't get me wrong, we have a very robust preventative maintenance plan. So, I think we've showed most of our trucks, we try to get anywhere between 15 and 20 years now out of them. So when we squeeze 20 years out of a truck right now, we're squeezing all the life out of it.
Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else? Stanley.
Yes, of course, it catches my $205,000. That's a lot of money. I see the Greater Police contract here. Have we tried, instead of going to Boston, Greater Boston Police Council contract, is there other options to get another price maybe in the Wisconsin Police Council contract? In Wisconsin, they probably have big plows and they're all over the place. And maybe they're cheaper if we don't just stay with this Boston avenue. Have we tried that, or can we try that? Again, just looking for a second price or a third price to just not be tied to this Boston, who says that they're the best thing going and all, but I was just hoping to get a second opinion somehow that way. Thank you.
Mike, do you have an answer for that?
Thank you.
Like I said earlier, most of the purchase and procurements with like either Greater Boston or National Joint Powers, which is now Sourcewell, the prices we're getting, even with the international, is direct from the manufacturer. So whether we use Greater Boston Police Council or whether we use Sourcewell, National Joint Powers, any of the major national procurements, it's the same price for the cabin chassis truck international itself. And then the other add-ons are the dump body, the plow, the sanding unit, which are accessories. Pretty much the pricing for the truck itself, though, is the same no matter which contract we use.
Or what state, to Stanley's question, would we get a better price? Should we move to a different?
No, because for the truck itself, you're going to pay the same price no matter which contract because it's a national pricing from the manufacturer itself.
Okay. Thanks, Mike.
Yep.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? Motion approved, 5-0. Item 19 is a motion to read, pass, and adopt as a second reading an ordinance and amendment of Chapter 731 of the Code of Ordinances of the Town of Narragansett, Rhode Island, entitled Zoning at Section 3.2 Official Zoning Map, rezoning 2 properties to comply with designations assigned in the 2017 Narragansett Comprehensive Plan Land Use Map.
So moved.
Discussion, this is a second reading. This is for Plat P, Lot 293, from residential to IA, and for Plat L, Lot 282, from residential to BA, limited business.
Yeah, I have a question for the solicitor, for Mark Davis. There's been a few of these readings, first and second readings that we've had in our council meetings that have not gone to the audience for discussion. That's something that I was hoping to get some clarification from you on. When I look at the town council rules, it says that all items on the agenda the president will inquire if any citizens wish to be heard. So I'd like to have some, verdict on that so we know the correct procedure going forward.
Well, second readings, typically, if nothing's changed since the first reading, we have the discussion at the first reading, and then that's why there's not a lot of discussion at the second. So.
But again, I'm going by the wording in our rules.
The practice has been exactly as Matt has stated. I think there's some discretion that the president has with the second reading, and that's the protocol that's been established. So,
is that in writing anywhere?
I'm not sure if it's in writing. I'm not sure it's in writing.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
So does anyone want to, I mean, if there's any new information regarding these or concerns, but these were subject of a public hearing and a first reading where there was extensive discussion.
And then there was a list that we dwindled down to, from a litany of uses down to a few. And so anything that is on that list can happen at that property.
I mean, if somebody wanted to separate the two properties, that would be fine for the second readings, but
Maybe just give a heads up of which properties they are. I think one is the one out there at Cozy Corner, the one that's got the residential and going to BA on the corner there, and the other one is Westmoreland, that's smaller. That's the smaller lot or the larger lot? The smaller lot,
Smaller.
right? Yeah, okay. Give everybody a heads up.
right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed, motion approved 5-0. Item number 20 is a motion to approve the appointment of Dana Disculio to acting superintendent of the wastewater division.
So moved.
Discussion, I'm going to go to Sean on items 20 and 21 because they're linked, so we can just explain what's happened in this wastewater division because of the retirement.
Yes, Council President, we received a resignation letter from wastewater superintendent Peter Eldridge. He's been with the town for 5 years, but he's had a full career in profession. He started out in West Warwick, did 23 years there as superintendent of operations from '88 to 2011. And then he worked from 2011 to 2014 as an asset manager for Suez Water before coming to Narragansett. And then from 2014 to now, he's been our superintendent and has done a really unbelievable job. I have a sheet here of 8 awards that the Scarborough Wastewater Treatment Facility has won in just the past 5 years. Just to give you an example of some of these. From the United States Environmental Protection Agency, they received an award in 2017 for Operation and Maintenance Program Excellence Award. In 2018, they won the Platinum Award for 3 or more consecutive years of complete permit compliance. And then also in 2018, they won the A. Joseph Matera Safety Award and special recognition for their exemplary effort in employee safety. So on behalf of the town, I'd like to thank Peter for his service. And these next agenda items are administrative steps to first put an acting in place and then to replace him.
All right, thank you. So item 20 is the one that's before us. Is there any questions from the council? Anyone from the public? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved 5-0. Item 21 is a motion to approve the filling of one vacancy wastewater superintendent within the wastewater division due to a retirement.
So moved.
Discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved 5-0. Item 22 is a motion to approve the recommendations of the Sewer Policy Committee relative to the following property, Plat NH, lots 326 and 327, address of 2 Betty Drive.
So moved.
Discussion. This item comes from the town engineer. Any questions or comments from the council? Anyone from the public? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved 5-0. Item 23 is a motion to receive the notice of application for a zone change for South Kingstown property and instruct staff accordingly.
So moved.
Discussion. We received a correspondence from South Kingstown regarding this property, which is near a water source. And if there's anything that either the town clerk or the town manager wants to add to that in terms of detail.
The information that we received, that they want to notify us because we were in a butter. We weren't able to determine really the impact of the town on this move from our research.
If people are interested in the particular lot, which is off of Kenyon Woods Way in South Kingstown, there is a public hearing regarding that zone change in South Kingstown on August 13th, 2019 at 7:30 p.m. in South Kingston's council chambers. So, Terry, if you can thank the town of South Kingston for informing us, that'd be helpful. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, motion approved, 5-0. Item 24 is a motion to appoint or reappoint 3 individuals to the Zoning and Planning Board of Review. I'm actually going to take these as 3 separate motions because it's 3 reappointments. So the first is a motion for the reappointment of James P. Manning.
So moved. Make a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Matt,
Discussion.
I have one question on that. I had called the town clerk this afternoon, just to ask about term limits. I just want to make sure that we're following a procedure if he's been on for a long time, 17 years. So I'm not quite sure, and Terry wasn't sure, so I thought maybe we might have to have some more time on this.
Possibly.
Go ahead.
In the council rules on boards and committees, it's not stated as far as term limits, although there was a charter question in 2012 that allowed the council to establish term limits.
So he's been appointed once since the change, so he would be to be allowed to have one more term.
Right.
5 years
He was
ago.
grandfathered in.
Right.
I believe this would be the second appointment since 2012.
Right, because it says 10/20/2014.
Right, Mr. Manning was appointed for a 5-year term in August of 2009, and then again in October 2014, each for 5-year terms. But correct, this would be the second appointment since 2012.
So we could appoint him tonight? We wouldn't, okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, anyone else?
Sure. I have a observation, I guess, for this item. So I was reminded recently by a astute resident in town that there was a question asked in October of last year at the League of Women's Voters Forum that was asked of all of us up here, as well as the other candidates running. The question was, will you vote to enact a policy requiring that the town council to conduct public interviews for individuals seeking reappointment to zoning and planning boards? So when that question was answered, I voted yes, that I would require that, as did Matt, Jill, and Ricky. We all voted yes. Patrick voted no. So based on that promise in the forum, my proposal would be to table these 3 appointments and schedule those interviews as we promised.
I had the same conversation with different topic. I had said to Terry that we should probably interview all these folks this morning, so I'm in agreement with that.
So when the interview process for this, we have to, for an open seat interview under our rules. It's been very different over the years, whether we interview for a reappointment or not, if we interview for an alternate or not, and I've seen all different ways that's been done. But if the council would like to have interviews for the zoning and planning boards, I think it's totally fine to do that. So if you want to table this, then we'll have to have a motion to schedule those interviews. So probably we're looking for a motion to table this.
Motion to table?
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right. Any further discussion on that? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm sorry. Do you want to speak to the tabling? Yes, I do.
I'm delighted. Good evening. Meg Rogers, 68 Earls Court. I'm delighted to see the motion to table. Thank you. I wanted to play the audio from the debate.
Will you vote to enact a policy requiring the town council to conduct public interviews for individuals seeking reappointment to the zoning and planning boards?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. No, but I'd take a hard look at their attendance record.
That's me.
Yes.
Attendance only.
Yes, and I'd also like to take a look at.
I still don't have that.
both
No
the planning and
attendance.
zoning
No
board
attendance.
meetings.
The only thing I asked for.
Okay, so there's that. And similar questions were asked in 2016 and were met with similar responses, but no action taken. In 2016, an individual who had been first appointed in 1996 requested reappointment and received reappointment on a 3-to-1 vote with 1 recusal, the result of which is at the end of her term in 2021, this member will have served for 25 years, a generation. A generation! In July of 2012, there was a question on the ballot for the Narragansett voters to decide, and it asked, shall the Home Rule Charter for the town of Narragansett be amended to add a new Article 10 to establish term limits? Now, I suppose some up there might tell me that the voters in 2012, all 70% of them who voted for term limits, did not know for what they were voting. But I think it's generally fair to say that most people in town believe there are term limits, according to the new charter, 2 5-year consecutive terms for those who serve in zoning and planning. Back in 2014, on the night you were sworn in, Council President, Matthew, you stated, we'll try to answer everyone's questions and incorporate the diversity of our residents in our decision-making. Nothing was done. So that's why I'm here tonight, just as I was back in 2012 when an individual was appointed for a generation. And please know my remarks are directed at how you do the appointments, not directed at any one member who has chosen to serve. I'm here because I believe that you have an obligation as elected officials and as a fundamental principle of our democracy to maximize participation in government. And we can see from the applications on file in the town hall right now, some since 2016, that there are residents who have a strong commitment to participate in local government. Having term limits and appointing residents of differing viewpoints and qualifications helps facilitate the public's ability to participate in town government. So, while I'm happy at the motion to table, I'm greatly troubled that this just gives you cover and you'll push through a reappointment because you've had the cover of the interview. Because nothing has been done to respect the will of the voter who back in 2012 asked their governments to establish term limits so as to maximize the opportunities for residents with differing viewpoints, expertise, and qualifications. And I'd like to know, are these, as you stated in the debate, are they going to be public? Are they going to be advertised? And are they going to only be for the individual seeking the reappointment, or are they going to be for all of the other appointments you're going to look at tonight for zoning and planning, the alternates, and everyone else? Are you going to interview everyone? The 3 people, one of whom's been waiting since 2016 for you to take a look at? It's got a pretty impressive resume. I'm sure you've studied it. So I'd really like to know your thoughts on this. Thank you.
Meg, I actually voted for him last time.
Thank you. So as I said, we've done interviews in the past, and those interviews have taken place in a large boardroom. Yes.
Catherine Celebrato, 48 Earls Court. Since this is going to be tabled and you're going to have public interviews, I would really like to see these vacancies re-advertised. Right now, we have a zoning board that is business-oriented. We have 4 people who own businesses on the board. We have no I don't know what Mr. Trone does, but the other 4 own businesses. These applicants, the 3 applicants, they also all own businesses. There is nobody on the zoning board who represents a regular resident. And I would like to see, as I said, these openings re-advertised so maybe we can get more people to apply, and hopefully someone who represents, more of a cross-section of our town than is represented right now. Thank you.
Right, so for these type of interviews, it is something that anybody in the town can apply for, and we've And so I encourage people here or people at home who are interested, if they want to apply, to come forward. So as I said, we've had times when we've changed the membership of these. We've had times when they've been open. But just so everyone knows, when they're open, the policy currently forces us to do the interviews. I've seen over the last 6 years, there's been sometimes interviews, sometimes not, but there's not. It changes really from term to term and from appointment to appointment. So what we'll do is we'll have to have an agenda item to schedule those interviews. All right, so this is a motion to table.
How about continue?
Well, because we got to get the other stuff. If we pick a date certain, we might not have all the interviews done. Know what I mean?
Yep.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion approved 5-0. Item number 25 is a motion to determine the list and/or asking price for the real property known as the Belmont IGA building and premises located at 25 to 27 Pier Marketplace in the town of Narragansett.
A little bit.
So moved.
Second?
Discussion. This item comes from Councilman Murray and Councilman Pugh.
Okay. All right. Okay, this has been an ongoing concern for me. We listed the property in January of this year. And as a sitting elected official, I still don't know what the list or asking price is. And was hoping to get some kind of guidance tonight, as if we are going to, come up with some kind of price for that parcel.
Yeah, I agree. This is in line with a lot of the other items we put on over the last few months, which is, the idea is to get some transparency into this process. I think we owe it to the people in town to give them even just an idea of what we're doing in these executive sessions. I mean, what are we doing? What are we doing in those meetings if there's not even a list price for this building? So it's just a very basic request, I think. Discuss and determine what the building should be listed at. And if we don't know that, then we should go ahead and maybe rethink that appraisal that we brought up last meeting.
So do you have a specific asking price that you would like to put forward?
Well, I'm not an expert. I mean, certainly I sell commercial property, as you know, but I think with the zoning changes. Excuse me?
You're a real estate agent. Wait. Let it go ahead. So is there a price that because you put the agenda item on?
Yes.
So what's the price
All right, well,
that you're
let me
thinking? If
finish.
you took the time to put it together, is there a number that you want?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't have a specific number, but the reason I put this on is because it seems we're doing everything ass backwards, okay? That's basically my point, okay? I mean, you don't buy a loaf of bread, you don't buy a car, you don't buy anything without some type of price tag on it, okay? I mean, unless we got like some kind of big jar of beans that somebody's gonna guess and then they get the Belmont building, I just don't understand why we don't have an asking or some type of list price. Now, with the zoning changes that we did, we carved out 1.22 acres. That has value. We have 68 parking spaces. That has value. We have a tenant that's paying, with a net of $48,000 a year. That has value. All this needs to be computed by a professional, commercial, licensed real estate appraiser. All right? And this is, I just don't understand.
So that was the item on you had 2 weeks ago. So you basically have a motion to reconsider that? Is that what this is?
No, what is your price, Matt? You're the one
it's your motion.
Well,
It's
no,
your
but
motion.
do you have an asking price?
It's your
Do you have
motion.
any idea?
It's your motion.
I know, but you got the
should have
zeal
a
to sell a
number.
building.
You should
How
have
much
a
are we
number.
asking? How much are we
You should have a
asking?
number.
How much
if
are we
you,
asking?
You tell, it's your motion
about a
to
gazillion?
determine.
How about a
But if
gazillion?
you must have an idea. If I put on a motion
about a gazillion?
and I think through my motion, I have an
have
idea
an
and I
idea.
share that
I have
with
an
the
idea.
public.
Actually, you're not
So,
thinking this whole
but-
process out because you're
so
not doing a
what
very
is
good job
your-
marketing the damn thing.
What is your, so what,
All right, so I'll tell you the way that
it's
I've been thinking about
confusing.
the price of it. Not a realtor. but I'm basing it on other trends in town. So we saw Trio sell at, I think that was 2.8. I know the finishes inside are higher quality. It has outdoor seating, but space-wise, much smaller, half the size. We've seen the residential market over the last year and a half, go up basically 20%. So let's take 20% of what we bought it for. What's that, 600,000, something like that? Add that to it. So 3.4 for the entire building, all the parking. Again, we've combined the 2 units, so that adds value as well and has more parking than if you have the liquor store separate. So I would say 3.4 would make sense.
So that's yours. Any other council members have any thoughts on that?
Jill, you got no input? The other, also a real estate
Sure,
professional?
Patrick, we've been talking about this for months now,
Yeah,
and you're spinning it around, and, you know, I have nothing more to add to it. You want some political theater, you want to get likes on Facebook, that's all you want right now.
Likes
you
on
want,
Facebook?
You want to have your folks out in the audience start, that's all you want, that's what you want to do.
Let's not yell out. Let's show a little decorum.
Because I'm losing Facebook.
Well,
friends
not every
here.
meeting, that's a town council meeting. Not
Well,
every
Matt, this
meeting
is
has to have a
basic-
library.
This basic
So what's your
marketing.
basic number? You threw on an agenda
no,
item, Patrick,
all
because
right.
you wanted to have a big library rally again. That's what this is. We all know. Everyone at home knows it. We all know it. It's a town council meeting. It's a town council meeting. Keep
Matt,
going.
If
Go ahead.
If
Go
you're going to
ahead.
sell your house,
Go
how much
ahead.
you going to sell it for? You're going to put a list price on it? Or you're just going to say, my house is for sale? Make an offer.
So what do you guys
Doesn't make
think?
any
So-
sense, for God's sake.
What do you guys think of the 3.4? Do you have any thoughts on that? Does that make sense to you? Again,
Second.
you know, it's always a
I'll
negotiation.
second it.
All right, thank you. All right,
We-
so we have
so
a
can we
motion
move a
for
motion?
3.4
Yeah, let's-
and
let's-
second. That's
all
you.
right,
All
second.
right.
There we go.
All right, is there any other thoughts? Go ahead, Anita.
Likes. Make sure you like me. Everybody get on Facebook and like this. Like me.
Hi, my name is Anita Langer. I live in town, 241 Colonel John Gardner Road. I'm also a licensed real estate agent. Anybody in town or anybody who is going to sell a piece of property knows that you get at least 2 or 3 CMAs from different realtors. And then you look at that and you really study it. And perhaps you need to go, because this is a commercial piece of property with parking spaces that you don't have a definitive answer for as to how much they're worth. You should probably go to a commercial appraiser to put this piece of property with, I mean, even the discussion here tonight is ludicrous. You need to go out and get the professionals. You need to get 3 opinions. You need to get an appraiser. Please do not sell this building without getting the proper, go through the proper channels, go through the proper procedure, and do something for us as taxpayers. Get the right price if you're going to sell it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mark, have the proper procedures been followed for anything that has been talked about? We're not going to discuss what happened in executive session, but have the proper procedures been followed?
There have been no rules or laws broken.
Thank you.
Mark, I know you're a real estate attorney, so I just have a simple question. Have you ever heard of any property anywhere in the country that has been up for sale with no list or asking price? Yes or no?
I mean, there are private deals done all the time, but generally speaking,
Come on. Come on. So
Excuse me.
So we're to assume we're doing a private deal?
If you can't control yourselves, it's a town council meeting. I mean, this is like farcical. If you have a number, you didn't have a number. Now you have a number you came up with, so that's the number you put forward. So that's fine. We all know there's other factors besides price when there's a public sector sale that we are concerned about, that
That's
we
why
want to
we
look at
oppose it.
what the use of the building is going to be. That's a concern that people have as well. So, anyway, so is there anyone else who'd like to speak? Mr. Alba.
Dr. Al Alba, thank you for having me here. I, too, am a licensed real estate agent in the state of Rhode Island. And I'm just somewhat confused, putting Pat on the spot, asking him to come up with the sale price at this time. CMA's market analysis has to be done. We all know that. That's very important. But also, I have a question for all of you, is with the pledge, the Murray family pledge of many thousands of dollars, $500,000 matching pledge, is there any way that maybe we can reconsider and say, you know what, the cost for this library is going to be a nominal cost. The benefits received for all residents, not only Narragansett, but South County, all of our patrons, in light of everyone coming forward and all the support, maybe we can reconsider it and say, you know what, let's take it off the table. Let's make this library a reality. So, I don't see the harm doing that. One of the main criteria, one of the main arguments was, the cost for taxpayers. But with people jumping in, willing to support it, with monies coming in, maybe we can say, you know what, let's make this a reality. Let's all get together collectively. It'll be a synergistic effect. The sum of the parts, the sum of the parts are greater than the individual parts. We can better. We're better than this. I just don't. Our church, St. Thomas More, we're expanding that. We're spending monies on that. People could say, well, we've had that church for years. It's serving it fine, but there's a capital campaign fund for that because we're utilizing it. It's better for the families and the patrons, the people who use it, the parishioners. So I just feel that, with people coming forth and putting donations forth, we should reconsider. Let's take this off the market, and let's make it a library that we all can be proud of. Thank you.
Thank you. The budget in 2018, and the finance director can correct me if I'm wrong, was approximately $7 to $7.1 million for the project, which was $5.8 million in borrowing, an estimate of $1.2 million for pledges and grants.
And we're halfway there.
So, and that was what the budget was. So I just want people to be aware of that.
Catherine Celebrato, 48 Earls Court. The motion that we're discussing now is to set a price. People are getting up and speaking to a whole other range of issues. And someone has to set some kind of limits. There's a motion on the table. That's what we should be talking about, setting a price. And the rest of it is for open forum. I just wish we would to get through the agenda, and then we go to open forum.
Thank you. All right, anyone else? Mr. DeStefano.
Thank you. I've got to agree with Mr. Murray. I've never seen anything like this. You make up a price or you have these private executive sessions under the cloak of executive session, and you come up with a magic number. You always have to go, you've got to give the property, expose it to the people, have a good real estate agent, advertise it broadly and widely so that we, the taxpayers, know, even though I don't want this building sold, but we, the taxpayers, have to know that we are getting top value for this building, and this is not a sneaky backroom deal.
Nancy.
Nancy DiNuccio, Vanderbilt Drive. I'm looking at the motion, and the motion is to determine a list price. It's not for either Patrick or Jesse to come up with a number tonight. people have had 13, 14 executive sessions about the Belmont building. I would imagine, and this is the kind of discussion that you have been having in executive session. I don't understand why you wouldn't want to give a little bit to us, even though we don't want you to sell that building. Give us a little something that you're doing things properly, that you honor the residents of the town of Narragansett by doing something in the open, you know, to list the price, to do something. I mean, you know, as Ted said, if you're going to sell the building, get the most you can for it. Do something. You didn't want to get it appraised. You didn't want to do anything to out in the open for us to understand what you're trying to do. We might think, oh, you know what, they're really doing a great job. But no, we're sitting back looking, saying they're doing all this sneaky stuff behind our backs, and we don't know what they're doing. And it's insulting.
Yes, Mrs. Fortin.
Carol Fortin, 10 Cross Road, Narragansett. I asked at the last council meeting that you get an appraisal on this building. I am not a real estate agent, but I have a lot of common sense, and I wouldn't be selling my home without getting an appraisal, since I know what the Narragansett market has gone up, and the figure that I would have in my head for my home, I know would be worth much more. I can't understand the business that you are doing and not doing it appropriately. Please, get an appraisal, advertise it. And I don't know about Mr. Davis, but I don't know of any huge commercial piece of property that is sold as a private sale. Maybe there is. However, that comment made me a little worried, because is that what's happening back there? I don't know if he sits in on your executive sessions. I have no idea, nor do I really care. But is that what's happening? I mean, I don't know why you don't want me to trust you. You know, I'm a taxpayer here. I want to trust you. I want to look you in the eye and know you're doing something appropriate for me. I don't want you to sell the building. Obviously, you know that. But please do it right. Get an appraisal and advertise it. Because there are businesses that would probably pay top dollar for 59 or 68 parking spaces. Thank you.
Thank you. Richard. Richard.
May I just say,
There's private deals many times that are cash deals that don't have purchase prices.
Matt,
That's what he said.
But Matt, I wasn't able to finish my response because there was a lot of noise in the audience. What I was saying is, this is really an interesting group of people. My point is...
You won't be satisfied. You all know that.
My point
you won't be satisfied. If it was $4 million, you all know that. You all know that.
My point
Everyone at home knows it. They all know it. They all know it.
My point is...
You've been a little bit impolite sometimes, too.
My point...
And you haven't, Ms. Granite. And you haven't.
So my point was that... My point was that I'm allowed to finish my thoughts if there's agreement. I'm not allowed to finish my thoughts if there's not. That's the point.
You're not allowed to finish your thought, Mark,
So
unless...
my point was, Patrick asked me a question that's not legal, but I was going to respond that there are private deals that are done, but most of the time, there are established terms and conditions. So that was going to be my full answer before I was cut off. Thank you.
Richard.
I'll make the same point I've made for the last few years. This is not one building. I've been to all three parts of the building. They are really almost three separate buildings. And I wish we could have a real tour, or what do they call them, these tours that you get with cameras, and go through those 3 separate buildings and see what you see. I'll tell you what I see. And while not a real estate agent or a valuer, I've certainly been around the business scene and the not-for-profit scene many, many years. I see what I call the old IGA building as something that is, unfortunately, for the last 10 years, been judged as an economic failure because it has not been rented, it has not been sold. But that part is a wonderful building compared to the second floor, which is not usable for any purpose other than a shuffleboard court. And take a reality tour. Come up those stairs, winding, narrow stairs, and see what you see. And then go down the windy stairs and leave, and tell me that this is not only an eyesore, not only unusual, it's one big building violation. And the liquor store is a very narrow structure made for one purpose, a liquor store. The IGA market was made for one purpose, a grocery store. And we just fail to realize that. And I think it's very perhaps wrong to think that this is one building which one firm would want to buy. It isn't. And I urge everybody, take a tour of the second floor. It even rhymes. And see how useless it is.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Stanley.
Stan Wojciechowski, Narragansett. I was reading the paper, Narragansett Times, on July 31st. State Treasurer Magaziner releases a comprehensive review of public debt in Rhode Island. And he says that both South Kingston and North Kingston carry debts well within the Treasurer's acceptable ranges. But in Narragansett, the town comes dangerously close to meeting the recommended limits for governmental debt services. And he hired, I guess, the Public Finance Management Board. So you've got some experts out there that's saying that we are on the edge. We don't have money. We can't really be looking at more public debt. And to consider another issue that means more public debt when we have recommendation from experts, not only political people, but experts in the field, obviously seems to be irresponsible at this time. So maybe it is a good idea to let go of this project if it is based on public debt. However, in light of the Murray Foundation, which I was so happy to read about, maybe that's the answer. It could be privately funded, not government taxpayer money, but let's all get together and chip in and pay. We got 6,000 people. All we got to do is give $1,000 each, and you got $6 million. So it's not, you, the government, don't have the money. So the only way to carry on this project is everybody volunteer to give the money. And we got so many people volunteering to give money, there's no reason for you to go and tax everyone in this town more to get this money when it could be privately funded. And I suggest maybe the library should be a foundation itself So when somebody donates to the library, it could be tax deductible. Maybe that's an option. Again, all those, and my father used to say, if you got a big mouth, pay for it. You know, pay for it. We're out there, we want this, we want this. Okay, volunteer to pay for it. And I'll chip in and pay for the library. I'll pay something. But the taxpayer, it is saying here, the taxpayer, Narragansett can't afford it.
Thank you, Stanley.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes. No, Ted, you already spoke on this item. Suzanne?
Susan Amoruso, West Bay Drive. Getting back to the original discussion on whether this should be publicly advertised, I mean, trying to get back to that. This opinion where private sales, you know, maybe they've gone through, we're not talking about like Taylor Swift's mansion, Jay Leno's home that would be involved in a private sale, and you don't want the whole world to know about it because it's like, you know, a visible profile. We're talking about a public space, a public building, public parking spaces that the town of Narragansett already owns. We own this. So we are as much of the sellers as you are. So we have a right to know who is selling this. This should not be a private sale. We should know, get an agent or who is selling it. How did these people come forward if there's a deal? We should know an asking price, and that should be based on a commercial, not a residential appraisal. And then we should proceed from there. Of course, you know, I don't want to sell it, but if it's going to happen, it needs to be done correctly. It doesn't need to be done this way, because this way is the wrong way. There's no one, I haven't met anyone, even people who don't want the library, that say, well, I don't know how they're selling it. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm a little nervous. What's going to go in there? So it's not just library supporters who are concerned about this. We are the owners. We are the town. So we deserve some inclusion in this process.
Thank you. Yes, in the back. In the back.
And Matt, to Ms. Celebroto's point, can we please keep them on topic of this motion on the agenda item is to come up with, determine a price for the building? That's the motion. So if we can keep the comments directed toward that. There's plenty of time in open forum for them to get up and talk other things.
Hello. Stephen Bellis, 8 Baldwin Court. I'd like to know if all of you would be willing to swear in public that you or none of your family members or acquaintances will benefit monetarily from the sale of the building.
Matt, as I just said.
Sure. Yep. I'm happy to swear in public that me or any of my family members will not benefit from any sale.
Matt, the speaker did not speak on the topic of the motion. Let's stay to the motion, please.
Well,
the problem is with all of this is this is not a library route. This is a town council meeting. There's agenda items. You can yell all you want about it. Okay, and you're not going to be satisfied. You've made it clear you're not going to be satisfied. You can. Yeah.
Excuse me, sir, I'm addressing you.
Sean.
Excuse me. Listen. Come to the podium, make your speeches there. Everybody in your seats, stay quiet, please.
And accusations are not factual. So who's next? Yes. Yes.
On the price of the building.
I just want to say something real quick here. For the record, I think shuffleboard's going to make a comeback. So I think we're on to something with that space on the second floor. For the record.
Madge McCarthy, Edgewater Road, Narragansett.
Everyone.
I've come to every meeting all winter and so forth, and right on tonight. There's a gentleman here that every time he speaks up and says, upstairs in this building, it is a mess, there's nothing there, you'll never be able to turn it into a library. What I don't understand is, how did he get upstairs to see this building when we are not allowed to have an architect? Why can't you let us have access to it, and you should be getting...
Excuse me, Council President, I think we need to stick to the agenda item, because we're never going to get to the open forum if we don't stick to the point that we're trying to work on.
What? What do you want me to do?
You need to speak to the agenda item.
What do you want the price to be? Do you want it to be 3.4 million?
What I want you to do is be able to get our architecture in there and monitor to make sure, is it going to build a facility for a library?
You need to speak to the motion at hand, which is determining the price for the building. If you want to speak on other topics, you can come back at open forum and do so, but we're trying to get the meeting go along so we can get to the open forum part for you.
Yes.
Gloria Roman, 33 Wheatfield Cove Road, Narragansett. So the motion says to determine a list and asking price. Mr. Mannix, you asked Patrick Murray to please give his opinion. His opinion doesn't matter. What matters is an appraisal. Mr. Davis, you said that nothing illegal was being done. Yes, probably that is so, that it's not illegal, but it's not good practice. It's not transparency.
Matt, she's off
For
topic.
you, I'm talking about
You're
a
not talking
motion
about
to
setting the price.
determine the list.
You're
Price.
deviating away from it, and
Excuse
you know
me?
it.
I am
You're
not.
deviated away.
I beg your pardon, Ms.
Speak to the
Lawyer.
motion of the
I'm speaking
price.
to the motion, a motion to determine a list. Mr. Davis was asked a question in regards to this motion, and so that's what I'm speaking to.
That's Matt, please.
Well, I mean,
I am speaking to
This-
it. I'm sorry. Am I speaking to it?
you're
I'm-
just
Okay.
making library speeches. that you
No,
wanna
I'm not
make.
making
Yeah,
library
you are.
speech. I'm
You
most
keep making
certainly-
the same speech. We've heard it. The arguments have been had. There's pros and cons. No one is right and no one is wrong. It's a difference of
This is
opinion.
not a
It's a difference
library.
of opinion.
Excuse me,
We
Mr.
could pick-
Mannix.
right.
I
So-
have my 3 minutes, and you need to allow me to speak. And I am speaking
So stick to the purchase price.
I am speaking about the motion.
Mhm.
This was all conversation that happened during the discussion of this motion. So you can't tell me I'm not speaking to the motion.
There were a
Ms.
lot of other
Lawler.
things that were brought up, too, from other people that had
Well,
nothing to do
they
with it.
brought up
so-
other things. I'm
Right, so
sorry.
we're trying to keep it glorious so that we can make
I
it through the meeting.
understand that, but if
And
you
can come back
stop,
up-
if you stop interrupting me and
you have
telling
plenty of
me
time.
that I'm not speaking to the motion,
But you're not.
you're the one who's creating something other than what it is.
But you're not.
Anyway, there is no good deal when an appraisal hasn't been done to determine a list price. That's the motion. Determine a list price. You can't determine a list price out of your heads. It must be done by multiple, competent, qualified, certified appraisers, not what you think is right. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Carolyn DeLeo, 201 Colonel John Gardner Road. All right, so we've heard a lot about what people have said other than asking to determine what the price is. So I'm going to ask all of you, since you've been talking about this for 14 months or however long, what is your price? What have you determined the value of this property to be? You must have a value in your head? And what have you used as a basis to come up with that price?
Thank you. Thank you.
That bears a response.
Thank you for your comments, Ms. DeLeo. Thank
It was
you.
a question, not a question, not a comment.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It's a comment on the motion. Thank you. This is not a question and answer session. We do that. We do work sessions on that. I know you people don't care about procedure. You don't care about the Open Meetings Act. I get it. You want what you want. It's very clear. And you will do it. You will bully. You will intimidate. It's very clear what you will do. People in this town have come to me and they've shared. They're like, you cannot talk to the library supporters because they have you don't see it as a debate. You see it as a right versus a wrong. That's how you see it. And so that's fine, but there's no room for debate then. There's no room for conversation. Who would like to speak next? Sir.
Alex Amoruso, West Bay Drive. The motion here is to determine a list and/or asking price. I can't see anyone being able to do that without some intrinsic knowledge of the building. We can't go in. We can't even park in the parking spaces. I mean, how do you think we can come up with a realistic price without any information at all? I'm not sure that, you guys, you three, want us to come up with a price because you don't care what price we come up with. You've already come up with yours and decided who you're going to sell it to. And, it's just unreasonable to go through this when we don't know anything about the building. You need to get a professional evaluation. We need to get a professional evaluation. As a taxpayer in Narragansett, that's what we need.
Thank you. Yes.
Patrick Kavanaugh, Winterberry Road. I know there was a whole bunch of executive sessions leading up to the purchase of the property, and there's been a bunch of executive sessions leading to the sale of the property. I think what would ease a lot of the people in this room, I'm not speaking for them, but from what I'm hearing, is there a future date, a guesstimate of when we will know what the asking price is? Not for or against, not screaming and hollering about the library and people acting like 2-year-olds. Just, is there a simple guesstimate date of when the town residents will know what the asking price is? Do you have
When the
that?
property was bought, the contract, essentially the purchase and sales agreement, was put out to the public, and then that was voted on publicly. And the same, what we've done for all contracts of that sort when we're in executive session, the same will happen here. If and when we have a contract ready that'll go on a public agenda for a vote. The purchase and sales agreement.
Do you have maybe like 30 days, 90 days,
No.
a guesstimate
No.
of maybe when?
No.
I have his answer. When hell freezes over.
So, to answer your question, so what Matt said is true. When the purchase and sales is on the agenda, if that happens, you'll know the accepted price. However, there isn't an asking price, so you'll never know an asking price because it doesn't exist. So the contract is not ever going to show an asking price. That's the problem. So that answers
Thank
your
you.
question. Does that answer it?
Somewhat. It doesn't necessarily answer when we'll find out.
Yeah, no.
We don't
right,
have an
right,
asking
right,
price,
right.
so
Okay.
there is no asking price, and there's no plans to come up with one, which is what this is about, and the appraisal's always been about. We're trying to get an asking price, but the majority of this council doesn't want to do that.
All right. You guys have had a bunch of executive sessions. I know the topic has come up about whether it's $1 million, $2 million, $5 million. You don't have to answer here because I get what the executive session is all about. But have you guys, all 5 of you, Jill, sorry, girl as well, thrown some prices on the table during those? I'm not asking what the prices were, but have you guys in that executive session, you've had plenty, thrown a price out there and kind of bantered back?
All negotiations for all projects have that characteristic when we're in executive session, including this one.
So numbers that have been thrown
Council
out?
President,
Thank you. We're so far afield now. Yes, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yes, we can't have a conversation.
No, I know.
Skirting around executive sessions.
You're right. And I've said this before. We can go into executive session on certain topics. We don't have to. There's been times we've gone in executive session on other issues in the town's history, and there's times when you have the ability to go into executive session and you choose not to, right? And I know that's been done. I've been part of it on all different issues. But right now, these motions are inappropriate. I mean, Patrick's motions are inappropriate because he knows we're in executive session. So they're inappropriate because the majority of the council has voted to seal those conversations. So it does make it very difficult to have these. It does, and that's why we are where we are.
Okay,
Matt, we are putting a dump truck for auction, and there's going to be a start of an auction price. There's got to be some kind of baseline to begin the process. Asking price, list price, is as basic in sales as anything could be. That it's not an executive session issue. It's a common sense issue.
Thank you.
Just my last comment on that is the sooner the better. Obviously, behind me, you can hear the concern. So the sooner we know the asking price, the better off assuage the folks' concerns.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. So the motion for the 3.4 million. Any further conversation? You seconded it.
All right.
Yep.
And for the record, the reason I didn't come up with a price as a real estate commercial and residential professional, I don't have enough information to determine a price. I need outside help of a commercial appraiser, first and foremost. So, but I am going to go with Jesse Pugh's 3.4. Why not?
So I'd also like to add, I agree with everyone who spoke. We do need an assessment. We've tried that. It's not going to happen. I hate to be the appraisal, yes, an appraisal. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but that's not ever going to happen. So if we're going to have a price, this is the time it's going to happen, because in a very short amount of time, it's going to be inconsequential anyway. So we're either going to do a price now or we're not.
All right, any other conversation?
No, I move to take a vote.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
No.
No. Motion fails 2-3. Number 26 is a motion to hire and/or retain the law office of Vincent F. Regasta Jr., Esquire. Is there a motion?
I'll move that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
This item comes from Mr. Murray.
Okay, Vinny Regasta, if you don't know, is a contract attorney for employees. He's worked for the state of Rhode Island, the Narragansett Bay Commission, the town of Coventry, Smithfield, North Smithfield, Exeter, Hopkinton, Lincoln, North Providence. And he's currently has a contract with the state police to look over employee contracts, negotiations, and retirement, everything to do with employees. I believe that since we have rotating town managers, the shelf life of a town manager is like less than 2 years. So I don't believe anybody's watching the store. This guy, especially with the new evergreen laws that you have perpetual contracts. We need to bring in a contracted attorney that can look out for the best interests of our taxpayers. And our own Mark Davis requested this attorney, this contract attorney, about a year ago. Jim Manny requested this about a year ago. And Jim Manny, as you know, he's a superintendent of the state police, and he's currently utilizing Mr. Regassa and his law firm and services. So this is a no-brainer. I've heard stories about this guy. You give him some money, and he looks over everything. We have contracts that actually contradicts itself in the contract. So we need this bad to move forward. Everybody's, we have people say they're conservatives. This is an easy up and down vote. This isn't a lot of money in a $64 million budget. You're worried about bullets? This is the bullet that we need, right here. This Vincent Ricosta and his law firm.
Thank you. Any other council comment?
Patrick, we had this discussion before. I agree that we should hire him on, but we don't need him now. We just went through our negotiation with our union. So let's just wait until this time next year and go for it.
I don't think he's going to be available because of the new evergreen contracts, because of every town in Rhode Island, even Mayor Lawza, even the most liberal mayors in this state have worked with this guy, are looking to hire this guy. He may not be available in a year or 6 months or 2 months. This is why we need to do it now, get him on retainer, and start looking through our contracts now for the next time we have negotiations. So we're ready. Because we are not doing the town's business the way we've been doing it for the last 4 years. It's been a mishmash negotiation process that has been, in some cases, fast-tracked. In many cases, not vetted enough. And I see things that I just don't understand how it's going. We need somebody outside, somebody who knows this, to bring us forward. I mean, you talk about, Stanley's talking about our unfunded liability. It's upwards of $120 million. When I got in at 2014, we were almost being taken over by the state for our pension. We're at 60.4% funded. Now, we've been funding it every year. We've been sticking to the timetable. And I think we're at almost 65%. It's a slow process. But this guy will be a great help. It's short money in a $64 million budget. I mean, this is very common sense, basic conservatism approach to government. Thank you.
So we, with Jim Manny the last time, we went through the negotiations. So we had 2 sets of negotiations with Council 94 and 1033. And we got major reforms. So I think you mischaracterized how the success of those negotiations, where we got everybody onto not having to pay for health care after age 65, so the town doesn't have to pay for that. So I think we've made some real reforms in the last 3 to 4 years. So I don't think, and that's been very planned out. We strategize. I think we all, I don't want to speak for everybody. I think we need the expertise of him, but we just need to, we don't have anything in front of us right now. So I think what we need to do is say, what's the plan, what's the budget for it, and then we can figure out how we're going to hire him. And we may want to meet with him. We may want to bring him into it. We may want to talk to him in an executive. But I mean, this is, I don't have a dollar value here, Patrick. I don't.
All right, well, let's say up to $25,000. I'll amend this right now. Let's say up to $25,000 per year. We got to get this ball rolling. We got to get this ball rolling, Matt. I mean, I watched how you managed the sale of the library, and to tell you, I don't trust you with the employee contract. I don't want to muck anything else up. All right.
Well, I think there's a lot of people in town that trust me with the long-term reforms that I was at the table with 2 unions.
So let's bring it back to the motion, people.
But you're entitled to your opinion. All right. Other thoughts?
Yeah, I have a few thoughts on this.
Yes, go ahead.
So I guess I'll start with just saying that so this is kind of an interesting agenda item for me personally. I'm a strong supporter of like workers' right to organize, and I believe in labor unions in general, and I know that they're essential for strong work environments and for fair pay and benefits. In fact, I was the only member on this town council to publicly support the Stop and Shop workers and stand with them physically as well at Stop and Shop. So I do support unions, and to me, this item is not an attempt to weaken unions. It is really just
Fairness.
It's a basic responsibility of the town to have a qualified person in these negotiations. The town manager and an attorney, and it's not a slight to Mark at all, but an attorney that doesn't specialize in labor negotiations is not the way to go into these meetings. So again, I just think we're not prepared. And you could say that we got, good deals and good negotiations, but what is that compared to? It seems fine, but this guy, Regasta specializes in this. This is what he does. And we can say we'll hire him later, but based on everything, the way that government goes, it just doesn't happen. So I don't want to kick it down the road. I actually agree with Patrick on this, and I'd say put him on retainer now because he could review the current contracts. And again, it's really not a lot of money in the grand scheme when we know that the OPEB liability is just always the elephant in the room with our overall debt. It's the pensions and the OPEB. So I am I'm for this. And I think it's just a basic responsibility of us in this position to take this step and make sure that we're prepared. Because the unions are prepared. They have high caliber lawyers in these meetings that we should have the same thing, and it should be a fair negotiation. So that's my take on it.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else on the council?
So this gentleman is very good. There's no question about it. I've seen him operate. I was part of a union in the city. I've also worked for Stop and Shop, so I did visit Stop and Shop with some of the employees that I knew that worked there when they were on strike. I think this is the future of Narragansett, to hire somebody on like this, but I also think that in hiring him, we're at some point going to put a town manager in a position. And I think it would be great to bring the two relations together, the town manager and this gentleman, and have them both work together prior to this and see what our town manager also says about hiring him, when to bring him on, put him in the budget somewhere. Our finance director was here. We haven't put him in the budget yet. I don't think another month or month and a half, Vin's going to get booked up where he's not going to come to Narragansett. I really don't think so. You hire Vin, Vin will come, believe me, for the right money. So I just think I'd rather wait until the town manager's in position.
Yes.
I've lived here a long time, and I've seen council after council after council, town manager after town manager after town manager, and on we go. And we have not ever had the guts to address the real problem we face here in Narragansett. It's an acronym, COLA, and we do not ever want to touch that because we lack the guts to say no. At the minimum, every new employee should have a COLA, but no more. than $300 a year, and we have to cap the COLAs. This is why we have no money, because we have thrown our money away on COLAs.
Thank you. I'll take some more comment, but what I was going to look for was a motion to continue this for 2 months so that we can then bring him in, talk to him, and attach a dollar figure to this, because we've all as a council expressed our desire to hire him, but we need to meet with him too, Pat. I mean, we got to talk to him, and yeah. So
He said.
right, but we didn't do it as a body, right? Which is really what we should do. Yeah.
Because we haven't been a body.
So, are there other comments? And then I'll look for that motion. Right.
Well, can people speak?
Right. Yeah, I just said, are there other comments? I see Stanley and Meg. Okay, so Meg and then Stanley. Oh, God. Come up together if you want.
Come on, Stanley, this is your big time here. You're the one who wants to save money.
You know, I thought I heard that Mark agreed with this a little while back, and Manny did too. And based on that, it just seems that we're looking at an expert. And yes, we should bring the expert on and give him the time to look over our stuff. And we don't want to lose him. I just think we do need that legalese. And if he feels that this is an expert that's needed, we ought to pursue it. And I'm afraid, like I say, the sooner the better. So we ought to do it right away. $25,000. There must be some surplus somewhere that can suck this up. I don't think there's a problem on money. I think it's just a matter we do need to do it. I'd appreciate it we do that as quick as possible, so we get on stream on that thing. Thank you.
Yes.
Good evening again. Margaret Rogers, 68 Earls Court. I, too, was brought up in a union household. My father was vice president of his union local. And one of the things my father always told me was when he was sitting across the table from the attorneys who were negotiating for the company for whom he worked, he always said, they didn't bring it. Our guys were better. And they knew that. And this is absolutely not about, not believing in labor unions. And I just want to say again that I'm so impressed tonight with the ethics and integrity of Councilor Pugh. It's all on public display. He's honest, he tells you the truth, and he's not playing sleight of hand. Because what you're seeing is sleight of hand up here. That's all it is. I saw it the night that Dawson Hodgson asked for help in the night court, and you said you had to take a look at his contract. The next day he quit. That was another sleight of hand. We've seen it before, we know what it is, and we don't trust you at all. Now, some of you in the council take great pride, even if unfounded, in the fact that you're looking out for the taxpayer, right? We saw it with the library pensioners. Couldn't give those poor souls that work for the public library a pension. Couldn't do it. Too expensive.
This
Couldn't
isn't
do
the
it.
topic.
But it's
Let's
always
stay on the
instru-
topic, please.
I beg your pardon, sir?
Let's stay on the topic,
I'm on the
please.
topic.
No, you're not.
I'm right on it.
You're not.
I'm right on it.
Costa could probably solve the library question of pensions. That's why we need this guy.
Thank you.
Right.
It's always
is the topic.
instructive to note that the current council president, by the way, pays no property tax. Okay, so he's looking out for the taxpayer, but he pays no property tax. So tonight, you have the opportunity to hire one of the 2 lawyers in the state, the gold standard, the go-to guy for the Democrats in the state, for Mara Loiza, Mayor Policina, Charlie Lombardi, all the guys who care about the bottom line, to hire an individual who by any measure
possesses the requisite talents and skills to represent the best for the Narragansett taxpayer. Put simply, he's the very best. And if you vote no, which you will, you'll continue it like the interview, sleight of hand. Let's give ourselves cover, be squishy. Let's take a look at it, right, Jill? Let's take a look at it. Let's not do anything, let's take a look at it. Then we know here tonight with this vote, we knew it before, but this certifies it, that you are absolutely not committed to keeping taxes affordable and looking out for the taxpayer. This is a
Thank you.
nonpartisan
Meg,
issue.
your time's up. Thank you.
Hopefully yours will be, sir.
Thank you. You see why we have these agenda items. Now everyone at home is learning, right? This is why we have these agenda items. It's about knocking people out of office in a year, which is fine. I get it. I've said it to both of these guys. I said, what are you so upset about? We're going to be gone in a year. You've reminded us so many times of it. But again, you really need to stick to the motion. The personal accusations that the last speaker had out were, that's fine, but really let's try to refrain from that in our conversations. I think it would be better for all of us. It's a difference of opinion. And so I'm going to look for a motion to continue this for 2 months. And then
Date certain, 2 months.
2
Put
months,
this on the
yeah.
agenda.
Weren't you going to say something? You don't want to say something. Come on, you're the one that, yes,
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
So we can discuss, right? It's a new motion to continue?
It's a motion to continue.
Yeah, so we get discussion on it.
No, I'm calling the question. All in favor?
It's a new motion.
All opposed?
Wait a minute.
All opposed?
So what's going to change
All
in 2 months?
opposed?
We'll have
describe
information about his salary. We'll get a chance to meet him. We'll have a potentially new town manager meet him, get his input.
I think
have
you
some
know
good information.
his rate, right?
No, he doesn't.
No, I don't.
No, he doesn't. He threw the motion on without doing research.
Wait. I
That's how you
have
do
an
things.
idea what this guy costs.
No idea.
And
No
we can
idea.
amend it right now, $25,000
You have no
per
idea. You
year.
throw motions on that aren't well thought out.
$25,000 and a $64 million budget.
I'm going to take a 5-minute break. Thank you, everyone. Because you need to calm down.
Yeah. We vote with him vote. What? What? Come on.
What's an hour? What's an hour?
It's $200 to $300 an hour. $200 to $300 an hour.
Motion. What?
Can't say it public.
So there's a motion to continue for 2 months so there's the option for us to meet with him and have a specific plan for what we want to do. All in favor of that?
Wait a minute, I want to say one more thing. Mark, you're on board with this, correct? Didn't we talk about this a year ago? Before contract negotiations, it was discussed, it was never executed.
No, we didn't.
I'm afraid the same thing's going to happen. And the so-called conservatives up here, I don't know why, all of a sudden they're weak-kneed on making a concrete decision to look over every contract. And if you want to put a price on it, up to 25 grand a year, and we don't have to spend that much, we can spend less, we can give him 5. We control what he does. It isn't like, he steps in and then all of a sudden this guy, is going to run a gambit here, okay? This is a very important decision. The sooner we get on board with this guy, the more benefit taxpayers will get out of it. Because if we keep horsing around, this guy will not be available. All right? Every town in this state is panicking. We got good times now, as good as it gets in Rhode Island politics. So as the economy turns around, I don't want this town left holding a bag. So that's what this is about. I don't think we should continue it. I think we need an up and down vote. Get this guy in here right away, up to 25 grand.
And I'll add that I actually just received a text from someone watching this who knows the details of the rate and work arrangements. I'm not going to quote the rate publicly. However, Regusta works on he's hourly as you go, so it wouldn't be a retainer. So we wouldn't even be committed to that retainer fee. We could use him how we want, but my suggestion is to form that relationship now, have him review current documents, and we have that relationship, and it's pay as you go. So there's not even that locked-in commitment of a retainer.
Thank you.
I mean, the 400,000 you saved on the library, we can keep this guy for like the next 100 years.
So let's at least take a look. I mean, I'm not saying the person who texted you is telling you incorrect information, but we can't go and take a vote on something from someone who's anonymous texting during a council meeting.
It's not anonymous.
Well, someone who you know, but we don't know. So I mean,
okay. All right.
So I just think I'm just looking for a little bit more time so we can know the numbers.
What number? Let's 25 grand.
Matt,
I just put the number down
take the
per
vote,
year,
please.
but up to. We can stop it at 5. We can stop
Patrick,
it at 6.
having one
There
more
is no
month is
number. The
gonna kill
number
you.
is inconsequential. Hire him. Hiring him tonight.
Sure, we will when
is
we take
important.
a look at the terms we want to see.
All right, well then don't come crying to me about conservatism and how I'm a liberal because I support the library and all this other crap, okay? Because I've had it up to here, all right? And then you got the silent guy over here. Now we have a nice conservative message, a conservative freaking duty of this council, and you guys are falling short. Same thing you did a year ago. You negotiated where you should have had somebody who knew what they were doing, who was on target. This is criminal. That's what this is, to the taxpayer.
It's not criminal,
Yes,
Patrick.
it
We negotiated things that people across the state were impressed with when we were at the table with 1033 and 94. So
During Jim's, when Jim was brought in by
But
the
we no
governor,
longer
one of
have
the main
that
things
town
she was
manager. We got
talking about
another
that.
town manager. We may be getting another.
Matt, let's take a vote.
It's a revolving door of attorneys and town managers. We need somebody in the wheelhouse.
All right, all in favor? The motion to continue.
Motion to continue, aye.
Aye. All
Abstain.
opposed?
Abstain.
Aye.
All right, motion approved 4-0. Item number 27, a motion to amend the rules and procedures for the Narragansett Town Council meetings to add required audio recording of all executive session meetings.
So moved.
I guess I'm going to have to second this one, huh?
You don't have to.
I'm going to get the cook to second it.
Is there a second?
I second it.
All right, discussion. This item comes from Mr. Pugh.
All right, thank you. So I
Did some research.
I've done a little research, and it turns out that a lot of other towns in the state, and I'm sure across the country, actually video record their executive session meetings. They keep them private, but they are recorded for record keeping. Other bodies of legislation and councils do audio recordings. It's basically a backup to guarantee accuracy of the minutes and to really ease the burden on the minute taker, the clerk, or whoever it is, by having that backup that they could fall back on to correct minutes. And then another advantage would be if there's ever litigation down the road for anything, and you have to go and look through the minutes or have testimony from people that are in those meetings, you have the recordings. So there's never going to be a he said, she said, or a disagreement on the way things happen in a meeting because it's recorded. So for me, I think it is an easy step to add. I wouldn't say it adds transparency because, again, it would still be sealed if voted to be sealed, just like written minutes are. But it adds accuracy. It adds a permanent archive. So part of this recommendation would be to have these meetings digitally recorded by the clerk or whoever is sitting in for the clerk if the clerk's not there, and to permanently archive in a secure environment in the same place that the digital written minutes would be. So on a server, a secure folder in a server. So that is that's the agenda item.
All right. I can support this.
Thank you.
The only reservations I have to clean up my language during these executive sessions. So, but I can support this. Thank you.
All right, anyone else from the council?
Terry, a couple questions for you. The other towns that are doing this, for what purpose do they do this?
Transparency.
Asking the town clerk, please.
When the agenda item came in, I contacted the other city and town clerks in Rhode Island. There are 39. I did get a poll from them that of those who responded, 11 of the municipalities audio record their executive sessions, although most do not keep it as a permanent record. It is used to assist the scribe in preparing the minutes of the executive sessions, but not kept as a permanent record of the meeting. 16 of the municipalities that responded do not record their executive sessions. I would just note that there was legislation that was introduced in the last legislative session that was fairly broad. I apologize for not speaking to you. I want to get it into the microphone. There was legislation that was introduced that was rather broad with regard to some reforms in the Open Meetings Act, and it was testified against by members of the Rhode Island Town and City Clerks Association, as well as the Rhode Island League of Cities and Towns. And one of the elements that was opposed was the recording of the executive sessions for various reasons. Our own Representative Carol Hagan McEntee had originally introduced the legislation, and she withdrew it.
Do you have, do you know the reason, any stated reasons why?
I can tell you why. That there's probably nobody in that General Assembly wants anything recorded.
It's concerns over leaks. It is one of the big issues that it would be, that was one of the things I think that had come up.
Part of the testimony had to do with the discussions in executive session being attorney-client privilege, and how to secure that in a way that it's never leaked.
However, we do keep the written minutes, correct?
We do.
Okay, so those could be leaked as well.
Yes, they could. But in those minutes, right, there could be attorney-client conversations that aren't going to necessarily be included because the minutes aren't a verbatim, verbatim record of what goes on. So, the city, the Association of Clerks across the state felt it was not a good idea.
That's correct.
And okay, so I just want to get a better idea why. So leaks were one of the reasons, right?
Part of it, they objected to the overall bill as it was presented, which had a lot of elements that imposed live streaming of the meetings, various meetings, not just town council, the expenses that it would involve for municipalities that had not budgeted for it and don't have the facilities for it. So there were a lot of elements of that particular bill that were objected to, not just the recording of executive session minutes.
That was just part of the bill.
That was part of it.
And then in your experience, what would be the cost associated with doing these recordings?
Tape recorder.
I haven't explored it.
But it would be like a handheld digital recorder, probably.
Similar to what we use for the regular meetings.
Uh-huh. And then do we have a environment where these files could be stored currently?
Currently, we have a segregated file that's under lock and key for the written minutes, and then also segregated electronic file.
Okay. And we would be able to also password protect the file itself. If you zipped it, you could set a password to it.
That's possible.
So then, and the only person that would know it would be basically you, or whoever the clerk is.
And the clerk changes from time to time, as you know.
Mm-hmm. I'm just trying to figure out this, the idea of leaks, because in a town like this, there's only, it would be pretty much one person handling that file. So, again.
Not necessarily, because you could have the IT person involved. Like Terry's not going to be password protecting it.
It's pretty easy. You right-click on it. It's like a right-click and then password protect.
So as far as the meeting notes, Jesse, you have a chance to ask and to tell Terry that you have had a mistake or make a correction. Have you seen corrections being needed, and that's why you want to have them taped? Because the notes that Terry I review are very thorough and accurate.
No, she does a great job. It's not about Terry's, a human can only take so many minutes. You get the gist of the conversation. You don't get all the conversation. I don't see the reason for not wanting to be more accurate and more transparent with our meetings.
I think she's very accurate. I mean,
But you can't be as accurate as having the actual recording.
Yes, you can, and she described the reasons.
You can be more
why she
accurate
had
in having
concerns.
the-
She described the
But
reasons.
she didn't.
for-
She didn't say how it's more accurate.
She didn't say, but she described the reasons why the Clerks Association was against it.
Yeah, leaks,
Right.
and it was part of a larger bill.
And also the attorney-client issues, too.
All right, so, okay. I guess I got your takes on it.
All right, anyone else? All right, anyone from the public? Catherine?
Catherine Celebrato, 48 Earls Court. This is one more example of disregarding one of our staff members' opinion. You asked Ms. Donovan for her opinion. She polled quite a few clerks. 16 don't bother recording. Of the 12 that do, don't keep them. Don't have any permanent record. You asked her opinion. She told you that these other cities and towns don't do it. What more do you want?
She said 11 do it.
But they don't retain them. They don't retain them. It's just to go over the notes for accuracy.
We can amend the item if we wanted to have it for a shorter period of time.
You asked her opinion. It didn't appear that she thought it was such a hot idea. As a matter of fact, the General Assembly didn't think it was a good idea. Carol McEntee withdrew her own motion, her own bill, whatever it was that she submitted. I mean, I don't know how many times you have to say it. It's just, obviously, just not necessary.
If the General Assembly is against it, I'm for it.
All right, thank you. Yes.
I think one of the concerns about retention is getting hacked. If you have Paul Zonfrillo, 7 Windward Circle, one of the problems with retaining the recordings is if the town server is hacked, then it can be out. So it's not like one person has the password. Password protection for PK, for those are easy to crack for people. Hackers could do that like in an instant. So having the whole recording, having the whole client-attorney privilege. So is my correct in understanding the attorney-client privilege is not recorded? Those are omitted from the minutes? Stuff that's sensitive and protected under that? Is that correct?
Usually.
Usually, right? So you could imagine a case where that gets recorded and then it gets out on the internet. And, I think this is a solution looking for a problem, quite frankly, because we don't even have to require a recording of anything. So I'm a little suspect because executive session is one of the themes, one of the narratives of the library, that the executive session is somehow evil. So, I am very skeptical about the merits of this. But even if pushing that aside, nobody does this. Nobody retains them. And I do think that, when you, in search of kind of having these, oh my God, crisis moments, you disparage our staff. That's what you're doing, because you're saying, oh no, it's not that she doesn't take good minutes, but, just to be sure. This is obviously part of going to be some kind of...
Russian collusion?
Excuse me, please don't interrupt me, Counselor, I'm speaking.
Yes, sir.
Please don't interrupt me. You've had plenty
Please
of time
don't
to
interrupt
grandstand.
the constituents, Patrick.
I'll just follow up on a couple of things that Paul mentioned. So again, we can always amend this to either keep those recordings for a shorter period of time or not keep them at all. One of the reasons that I brought it up at the beginning of this was litigation. I am under the assumption that there will be a court case related to the library, and there will be, and we should have an accurate, and there's going to be probably subpoenas for information from the executive session. So do you want to have the opinion of the council members, or do you want to have a recording of what was actually stated? I would like the recording. I have nothing to hide. So again, that's the reason for this. Going forward, I'd like to have an accurate record. I don't know why nobody else would want to, and so that's it.
I'm for it. You can't shut me up.
Thank you. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
No. Motion fails 2-3. Item 28 is a motion to adopt a resolution of recognition and appreciation for the Murray Family Charitable Foundation.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. This comes from both Councilmember Pugh and Councilmember Murray.
Okay, well, I checked that wood pile. I'm not related to this guy, but I would like to thank the Murray Foundation for making that generous contribution to the library cause. Certainly, it was like the bond, location specific, and I take my hats off to them for their commitment, continued commitment to this town. Thank you.
Yeah, so we put this on just really to show our appreciation and to let everyone know about this donation for those who, or the matching grant donation for those that aren't aware of it. It really is extremely generous, and it does show that everything that the library board has been saying about the potential for donations does exist, and there's going to be at least $500,000. So when that's matched, that's at $1 million, and I'm very certain that that number is going to continue to grow.
Triple that.
Yeah. So again, just wanted to take a moment to thank the Murray Family Charitable Foundation and let them know that we thank them for their generosity.
All right, anyone else? All right, any comment from the public? Yes, Dr. Alba.
Thank you, Dr. Al Alba, 24 Eagles Nest Terrace, Narragansett, Rhode Island. In the Independent and Narragansett Time, Mr. Terrence Murray of the Murray Family Charitable Foundation and honorary chairperson of the Save Our Library fundraising campaign said, "Narragansett is our home, and we are committed to supporting our community by investing in a modern new location for the wonderful Murray Lugens Memorial Library." Quote, in addition, he states, "Narragansett's public library is a treasured community institution where people of all ages and walks of life come together to read, learn, and explore. That's why our family is proud to make this matching grant to ensure that Narragansett has a modern new library space that our community needs and deserves. On a dollar-for-dollar basis, the grant will match pledges to the Save Our Library fundraising campaign up to $500,000. So I want to thank them on behalf of all the residents of Narragansett for making this generous pledge, and I strongly hope that the entire town council considers that, with more and more monies being pledged, that we might be able to make this library our dream, and that we might be able to go forward on the mission of building a new library. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Mr. Brady.
Patrick Brady, 156 Boston Neck Road, Narragansett. We know that the 2016 bond issue for the library was a scam by the library board and others by not stating it was for the Gilbane building in order to get it passed. Otherwise, it would not have been passed if they had mentioned Gilbane in that bond issue. We also know that only 40% of the registered voters voted for that bond. And we also know that money cannot be used because the bond issue was contaminated in its wording. Now, in 2019, this year, the library board has produced signs stating, "Love your library." Notice that the Gilbane building is once again not mentioned. It's not mentioned on their sign that they love the Gilbane building. They're saying, love your library. I love my library. The library board is trying to pull the same scam as on the voting ballot in 2016. They've got signs all over this town collecting donations from people who are not aware that they are proposing the Gilbane building. This is a fraud. Those signs should be removed. We now have a new group. May I?
You're fine. Go ahead.
We now have a new group fighting the renovation of the existing library, and they call themselves Save Our Library. Again, there is no mention of the purpose in this name. They don't mention the Gilbane building. That's what they're going for. They say it in newspaper articles, but they don't put it in the title of their funding for collecting money. The group does not want you to save our library. Our library is at the corner of Kingston Road and Caswell Street. That's our library. And if they want to save our library, fine. And if they want to renovate or convert the Gilbane building, then say it in their fund paperwork. They need to change their name, or they're endorsing the same fraud the library board is perpetrating on us residents and taxpayers. Now, as to the Gilbane building into the library, the costs, why didn't the library board and council hire an architect to give estimates before the 2016 vote?
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Lori, Stan, Gloria, Catherine.
Real quick, let's call it the Narragansett Belmont building, okay? I don't know why. Gilbane's already got paid. He's out of the picture. It's the Narragansett Belmont building.
Lori Kelly, Wildfield Farm. I am on the library board. What the last speaker said was very borderline libelous to me, but again, I'm not an attorney. Much of that information which you presented as facts is not, in fact, the library board at all, but is separate coalitions formed by people who support the library in our community. Furthermore, if you'd like to make an APRA request, perhaps you would see who on this current council actually changed the bond language. I assure you it was not the library board. The advertisement said specifically that building, and then suddenly it was changed. And again, that would be in an open records request. And you might be surprised to see it was not the library board. I caution you, your tempers are flaring, but it is not the library board doing this stuff. It is not the library board who issued signs saying anything. Thank you.
Thank you. Stanley, Catherine, someone else, then Ms. Fortin.
Stan Wojciechowski again.
Someone else.
I hate to repeat myself, but I'm not so sure we listened sometime the first time, but what the Murray Foundation did was so fantastic. It really brought up a new way to have a library, whether you renovate or buy a new one, whatever you do. He had the answer. He's smart. He had the answer. Go after funding. All these people who want the library, donate to the library fund. Don't go out there and donate. Don't come here to the government who doesn't have the money or ability to get this $6-7 million. Donate. There may be 5 or 6 other persons like the Murray Foundation that will come forward also. So that's the message we have to get out there, not to badger you, people who don't have access to the money, technically, according to the state treasurer, but go to the people who want it so sincerely that they will donate the money out there. Go out there and donate. When they go out there and ask somebody to sign, when you sign this petition, you sign to give me $1,000 or $500 for this library. If you're so fervent in your support, then you support it with money. That's the real key, money. Not loud talk, not bullying you who don't have the money. Go out there and pledge your money out there and demand. They should all demand money when you sign, okay? And anyone who voted for the library, if you vote for the library, then maybe we ought to set up a plan where you get a library assessment. So now all those who voted for the library agreed to an assessment, similar to a tax assessment, an assessment to pay for that action. Why don't we pay for what we want, not ask others to pay for what we want? Thank you.
Thank you. I think I had said Gloria and then Catherine, so then Ms. Fort and then Mr. DiStefano.
Gloria Roman, 33 Wheatville Cove Road. I find it very interesting that when I stuck to the motion 25, Ms. Lawler told me I was not on motion. Yet we have two speakers, Mr. Brady and Stanley, who came up and did not talk about the resolution to recognize the Murray Foundation. Yet nobody said to them, you're not staying on the motion. So let's be consistent. Thank you.
Thank you. Catherine, and then Catherine, and then
Catherine Celebrato, 48 Earls Court. I think the resolution is premature. He hasn't actually given $500,000 yet. I think that when he actually does give the money, a resolution, does he need another resolution, really? Maybe something more substantial would be in order, some other kind of different recognition, but right now, he hasn't actually given the money, so I think the resolution to give him what? You're going to give him a plaque or something? I don't know. Is premature.
It's not so it's, the resolution is what they get. There's no plaque or anything.
To something, to acknowledge
Yeah, because it's a pledge, so it is a commitment. Yeah. So when donations come in,
do you really
he'll
think
match.
he cares? I mean, if he actually gives the $500,000, then, then you think about something to thank him. But right now, doesn't seem like a good idea.
Maybe he can help us with a contract attorney.
Carol Fortin, 10 Cross Road. And I will stick to the motion. I just wanted to say something about this donation. It's a matching fund. So when we get, and I know that you people understand that, when we get our 500, which we're over that, to be perfectly honest, then wherever I forgot, I don't have notes on me, but I forgot what the two couple that are going to fund this that hasn't come out. I'm waiting to write my check. So when I know how to do it, I'm donating because I want the library. But I want to tell you a little something about the Murray family. They have always been very committed to the community. The Murray family comes from Cumberland. And I don't think it was Terrence in particular, but I have babysat for some children from the Murray family. So they go way back. And isn't it wonderful that we would have someone who has been successful in life and is willing to step up for our community and be willing to that's a substantial amount of money. That's not $1,000. That's a substantial match. And I didn't like, Matt, that you allowed a couple of speakers to be off motion because it took away of giving this gentleman the credit he should get for donating to our community. He did it before. He donated for the athletic field, and we have a football field and a track. So this isn't the first time this gentleman has stepped up for our community. And I think we should commend him for stepping up and not take away. And I agree with Ms. Lawler that we should have stayed to the motion. And it really took away from what these two gentlemen were trying to do, is just to simply say, thank you for stepping up with this donation.
Thank you.
Ted DiStefano, 94 Colonel John Gardner Road. I just find it totally unbelievable and incredible that we're even discussing this. The guy pledged $500,000. Terry Murray has been around for a long time. I've known him for years. You don't say thank you, and we're distracted in our deliberations about. We have to discuss this and deliberate. God, heaven forbid if he donated $1 million. Geez, you'd be at this for a year debating it.
Yes, Ms. Amoruso.
Susan Amoruso, West Bay Drive. My comment's kind of short. I just can't understand how the town council hasn't responded to this publicly with this generous donation. And I don't think we need to worry about if he's going to come up with the money. I think he's good for it. So I'm not particularly worried about that. Well, how do we know? I think we have confidence, and I think it's wonderful. And I'm kind of surprised that the town council has not embraced this and said, you know what, we've been talking fiscal responsibility. We should go with this, because the big joke is in North Kingston. Well, if you guys don't want it, I want it. South Kingston. Oh, maybe we can have Terrence Murray come here. So I think it's wonderful, and I think that the matching donations will far exceed his, because there's a lot of generous people that believe that we need a new building. We don't need to modify the other one. I couldn't even park. I haven't parked all summer in the library parking lot. I'm parking in Trio. Thank goodness they're not open for lunch. There's no space, especially in the summer. You just can't do it. It's too small. And I go by that big space and I think, I really thought that this was going to be a breaking point, that at least one of you would say, let's go with it. Let's make Narragansett something to be proud of, valuing education.
Thank you. Yes.
Nancy Denuccio, 8 Vanderbilt Drive. I'm also the president of the Love Your Library Coalition, and on behalf of them, I would just like to thank Terry Murray for his very generous acknowledgement of getting our library at the Belmont building.
Yes.
Thank you, Matthew, and thank you to the sponsor of the motion. Really, this motion is about being gracious, about saying thank you. And I think we were all brought up to say thank you. That's how we were raised. And I think we're just hoping and praying that our council hasn't hardened their hearts so much that they can't mark themselves with a little kindness and courtesy to someone that's been so gracious to our town, so generous to our town. And it will say more about you if you vote no, so I really implore you not to say no. I hope you will open up your hearts and just say thank you, because I know you were raised that way. And I just wanted to, in addition to thanking the Murray family, it obviously was announced that the Save Our Library fundraising campaign has many co-chairs drawn from all walks of life in our community, but primarily many successful people that, you know, stepped forward after the intransigence of the town council in selling our building, selling our library. And the campaign's leadership committee thus far includes many people you know: Richard Bakari, Andrew and Missy Boss, Murph Carmody, Marguerite Garahy, John and Barbara Hooper, Lori Kelly, Paul and Jean Moran, Tom Ritter, Rosalind Sinclair, our former Sioux superintendent and her husband, Kathy and Mike Zapala, and of course the former Hasbro CEO, Al and Jerry Verrecchia. I mean, let's say thank you to all of them, and I hope our council will be gracious in doing that. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, in the back.
Veronica Sabatino, 2 Linden Road. Just saying, if the town council won't thank the Murray family, then I will.
Thank you.
Hi again, Stephen Bellis, 8 Baldwin Court. I too would like to thank the Murray Family Foundation. To Stanley's point, if we were to go that route with private funding, I would want to propose that Stanley, probably his extended entire family, and all the people and the council here that are against the library be prohibited from entering the premises if we were to go that route, their entire extended family. Thank you.
Is there anyone else?
Fess up, Stanley. That's where you got that newspaper. I followed you. Every time I get there, you beat me to that time.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, definitely.
All opposed?
I thank the Murray family, but I'm going to wait for the money to be raised and thank them for all the money they helped raise. No.
No.
No, motion fails 2-3. Next, we have open forum. Please conduct yourself in an orderly fashion and respectful fashion. I know that'll be difficult for you. The comments of citizens assessing this portion of meeting are neither adopted nor endorsed by this body. Right, so public issues of concern in the town. Yes.
Good evening. Jeff Detler, Village of Point Judith. A lot of talk has occurred over the past year of the purchase of a building for $2.8 million. Not a word has been spoken about the potential expenditure of $2.2 million of town funds on a convicted felon, Narragansett Police Officer Riley. For over 22 months, the town has paid his pension to the tune of $110,000. Half of that time was after he pled guilty. Should the pension board continue to allow this expenditure and convicted felon Riley lives for 30 years based on actuarial tables because he's 51, it will cost the town $2 million, excluding health care. It took the pension board 49 days to approve the pension of Officer Riley. It is now over 330 days since he pled guilty in a plea bargain arrangement on sexual assault of a minor female. Why? Why 330 days to make a decision on this? In 2014, the pension board denied pension benefits to a Narragansett Parks and Recs employee for stealing $86 of town gas. The decision to deny pension benefits was done in 90 days, and then it was redone after an appeal by the employee to deny $86 versus a felon sexual predator who has to be listed. I suggest this town council advise the pension board to request a Freedom of Information action on the Riley plea bargain. Review the explicit pictures and video Officer Riley sent to a minor. I suggest this town council have the pension board invite the victim's parents to an executive session to hear firsthand the impact of this town employee on their daughter. Finally, The court has decided the victim shall receive remuneration. I suggest the victim should be compensated via Officer Riley's pension for at least half. It is Officer Riley that gets the pension directly, not his family, unless there is court action to defer the funds otherwise. Thank you.
Thank you.
Council President.
The pension board, I'm going to ask the town manager to let us know about the pension board. People know the pension board. People may not know. The pension board is an independent board, an independent decision-making board. But I would like the town manager just to inform when it's next on the agenda at pension board and whether that meeting is public or private. And I know he has other things he wants to say.
Yes, I just wanted to point out that I know there's been a lot of comments about this recently, but the town is taking action, and that's why you've seen that agenda item on the pension board's agenda. We can't talk about it because we're talking about an issue that's going to end up going to court. So I can't get in front of a town council meeting and start talking about the details. But we are taking action.
Other comments? Carol?
Carolyn DeLeo, 201 Colonel John Gardner. So my comment is, will you, in good faith, disclose to the potential buyer the fact that there are close to 2,000 voter signatures in support of the library, in essence, based on the initiatives that have been circulated, and that there are probably another 1,000 at least of us who are residents but not voting individuals who are in support of the library. So any potential buyer of this building, were it to be for retail purposes, might very well find that many of us will not support that operation. Just a question as to whether or not, in good faith, you'll disclose that.
Thank you. Yes.
Nancy DiNuccio, 8 Vanderbilt Drive. I want to go back to something that has happened over the last couple of months that I just would like you to think about a little bit. And the whole reason that there is a second reading on anything is for a chance for people, you know, maybe that came out of the woodwork, that were watching on TV and didn't really have an opinion until the first reading, and they want to come to the second reading and speak about that. And I've watched you a couple of times curtail comment on a second reading of something, and I really think that you need to give opportunities to people in the public and the residents, you know, with the hopes of transparency and open government, that you would give them that opportunity to speak. That's all I'm talking about tonight.
Thank you. Mr. DeStefano, Catherine, and then Mr. DeStefano.
Catherine Celebrato, 48 Earls Court. I want to talk about Matthew Riley again. It has been scheduled, I think, a July session. They went into executive session to discuss his pension. I spoke to Mr. Davis about this before the meeting. Unless he files a motion of replevens to get back the computers that the feds confiscated from the police department and to send those out to a forensic auditor to determine if this man was doing this type of activity while he was on the job. I don't feel that you can conduct a informed pension hearing to decide whether or not you're going to take back his pension and how much you're going to take back of his pension.
Council President, if I may, we got the computer back. We got his car back. There's nothing that they have. The delay was because we had to wait for the FBI to give us access to the information.
Okay.
We have it now, and now we're moving forward. We have everything. Everything that they used to prosecute him with, we now have.
So,
and that's what we're going to hearings for, but we're not going to have that hearing here.
As I said before, we know who voted for this pension. One of them is a public public appointee. I believe his name is Baruda. Don't you have the ability to withdraw him or to take him off the pension board since he is an appointee of the town council? I know you can't remove anybody else because they're elected by the employees, but the person who is a public member, one already resigned, but the other person who you appointed as a public member, don't you have the power to
It's when their term is
remove
up,
him.
unless there's something, I mean, yeah.
How about this vote? That was
But no, I get it. I was just going to ask the town manager, just for the purpose of transparency, the pension board meeting that's upcoming, is that going to be a public meeting? I've been to pension board meetings before, but sometimes they're public, but sometimes they're executive session.
It's not. It's an executive session.
It's an executive. I thought
because
so.
of the sensitive information that's when we talked about.
All right, so I just
the
wanted-
solicitor will be there, I'll be there, and there'll be a hearing.
But I just wanted people to know that sometimes those are public, sometimes, but this one is an executive session.
Yes.
Yes.
Ted DiStefano, 94 Colonel John Gardner Road. If anyone had any doubt about what direction this council is going after tonight, where you won't even thank Terry Murray and his family for a $500,000 donation, then you're beyond the pale. So with that said, and we know where Mannix is leading this his two followers, and that is to sell our library. But under Mannix, and without our new library, the town will not be able to grow culturally and socially, even though our wonderful Narragansett continues to grow in population. Mannix has done more to bring our town backwards than any council member we've had since I moved to this wonderful town to raise our young family almost 50 years ago. He seems to want to run the council as a petty dictator. Very, very sad. The next phase of this unnecessary scenario, so here's where we're going, now moves to the courts, legal fees for the town. We proud Narragansett residents must now fight to retain what 68% of those who voted, our voters, have chosen. They've chosen progress, culture, and most of all, our social heart, namely our new library. Our family, our children, and our elderly deserve nothing less.
Ms. Thornton.
I'm really disappointed in Mr. Leamer, Ms. Lawler, and Mr. Mannix. I don't care really what your politics is about the library, whether you're for it, you're against it. I'm going to sell a building, I'm not going to sell a building. How can you not have a heart? I only heard two things from Ms. Lawler and Ms. Leamer, and that was you're not talking to the motion. And you were right, they weren't. But I wonder why some people can go off topic and they go on for almost 3 minutes and some others can't. But I am extremely disappointed in 3 of you. I think you need to do some soul searching. And people will thank them, by the way, because we will send letters of thanks for this donation, even though you 3 do not have the guts to thank them. Now, on a positive note, okay, I would like to thank you, Ms. Lawler, and I would like to thank Chief Sean, because last time we had a council meeting, I came up to you and I told you of a serious situation going on the causeway in Bonnet Shores. It's not the first time I talked about this, but it was the first time I talked about it here. And it was the only time something was done. Have all the problems been solved on the causeway? No. But I do tell you that you have cut back. I don't know who you directed to do that, because I also know you wear 2 hats now. But the cutting back of the brush has made it more visible to see oncoming traffic, to see the walkers, to see the bikers. So that has improved the safety greatly, and I thank you for that.
Council President, I just want to say thank you to Public Works. That's who I asked to take care of that issue.
Thank you. Yeah, Mr. Smith.
I'm David Smith, 24 Castle Road, Narragansett. Last month, the Rhode Island Department of Transportation proposed a major amendment to the State Transportation Improvement Program. This program specifies how federal highway funds and funding from other sources are to be used over the next 10 years for bridges, paving, and a variety of transportation alternatives projects such as transit, sidewalks, and bikeways. This Major Amendment 19, as it's called, is similar to the proposal that was put forth in January, only to be removed before the end of its comment period. Major Amendment 19 is not as draconian as its predecessor, but it will have significant impact on projects that are currently funded and scheduled for Narragansett. Under the proposed amendment, repaving of Bridgetown Road will be delayed by 7 years to 2026. Boston Neck Road by 3 years to 2025. South Pier Road by 6 years to 2026. The more dramatic impact of the plan is reduction in funding for completion of the William C. O'Neill South County Bike Path, Phase 4B, from $8.4 million to $3.0 million, which effectively eliminates the current plan for an entirely off-road route through Canachet Farm. Now, it is important to note that the amendment does not affect construction of Phase 4A of the South County Bike Path, which is currently underway and is funded entirely by the 2016 Green Economy Bond. The public comment period for this amendment began in July and ends on August 22nd. There are to be 2 public hearings. The first is on Tuesday, August 13th at 5 p.m. here in Council Chambers. The second is Thursday, August 14th at 4 o'clock at the Rhode Island Department of Administration on Capitol Hill on Smith Street. The hearings will consist of presentations by the Department of Transportation and the Division of Statewide Planning, followed by public testimony. However, there won't be give and take question and answer sessions, as is the custom for these hearings. I urge Narragansett residents to pay attention to this amendment, to go to either of the public hearings, and to make comment where appropriate. For more information on Amendment 19 to the State Transportation Improvement Plan, links are available at planning.ri.gov. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, is there anyone else? Meg and then Mrs. Krichenko.
Thank you, Matthew. There's been a lot of angst in the community over going into executive session, and a lot of us just don't understand why executive session is okay now, but it wasn't okay before.
We're going to the executive session regarding the library, okay? Public, and we, under the Rhode Island general laws, under the Open Meetings Act, we can go in because it's lease or purchase of public, private property for public purpose. we don't have to go in executive session, and at this point, I think the public needs to know the benefits and the drawbacks of this particular plan for going into the Belmont property. I don't think it's in the public interest for it to be an executive session anymore. Similarly, when I first got on the council, I thought, what people may remember, I voted to not go in executive session on interviews for the town manager. At that time, I didn't think it was in the best interest.
Okay, so you may not be able to hear that, but I do have a transcript, and essentially it says, Council President in 2017 was making the case why he refused to go into executive session in 2017 on the Belmont building negotiation. Councilor Lawler concurred, but for different reasons, saying she objected to the presence of the Library Board of Trustees being there, and she concurred with Matt that it was time, it was overdue, it needed to come out of executive session. So this begs the question, and this is why it's so confusing for so many of us, is that why did you want public transparency and you wanted the public to know what was going on in 2017, but now you look to the solicitor and he says, it's legal, you can do it, but you're not required to do it. So you take cover under that. This is what we don't understand. It's just hypocrisy on steroids. You did one thing in 2017, and now you're doing the exact opposite. So we're all very confused, and I just don't know why you're not held accountable for this. It makes absolutely no sense. Thank you.
I can clear up the confusion. I can clear up the confusion in the executive sessions leading up to the purchase of the IGA building. I voted to go into executive session throughout the process. When we got to the end game, I wanted to have the thing go public at that last meeting because the terms had basically been hammered out. The same is going to happen here, a series of executive sessions, and then a purchase and sales agreement that's going to be voted on publicly. It's the same, it's really the same. So it was 2017, on very close to the October 2017 vote. So you're out of order, Meg. I'm trying to clarify because what happens is lies get told and they're not true. They're put out there and they're not true. I earlier said tonight that we've gone in executive session and sometimes voted for executive session at different times. Town manager interviews, I've sometimes voted to have town manager interviews public. I've sometimes voted to have them not public. It's a case-by-case basis, and you may go in executive session. And so I just wanted to clarify that for the record. Thank you. Who else? Ms. Grichenko.
Mary Ann Grinchenko, 221 Foddering Farm Road. I want to thank both Mr. Pugh and Mr. Murray for bringing the resolution of recognition and appreciation to the Murray family. I think it's disgraceful that the three of you, Mr. Mannix, Ms. Lima, Mr. Lima, and Ms. Lawler, refused to recognize such a wonderful happening for our town. However, I guess I shouldn't be outraged, appalled, and disappointed because you certainly didn't approve the library with the endorsement of over 40% of state funding towards the library, so that was ignored. Our budget was cut by $441,000, losing probably $181,000 from the state in September when we apply for our funding. Why am I shocked? Why am I appalled? Why am I disappointed? As an individual of this town, I think it's disgraceful. As president of the Friends of Narragansett Library, so many people were so happy when this announcement was made, giving pledges, and we said wait until it has been resolved. But so many people have come up to the plate and want to back it. And we're so proud. And here, our town council, 3 of you, have ignored this, slapped us in the face, and just sit there. I'm shocked. I don't know why. It's been happening in every area. But this is very, very sad. Thank you.
Is there anyone else? Lori and then Pat, and I see a few other hands.
Lori Kelly, Wildfield Farm Road. I too want to take this opportunity to thank the Murray Charitable Foundation and all the people that have come out, not only on that list, but will be coming out in the future to support us. I guess this opposition has really, the inability for the council to move forward with this project has really sort of lit a fire under donations to the library, and I expect this to continue. You would think that everyone would be happy about that, but certainly the library and most townspeople are happy about that. I also do want to go back to one of the items that I wasn't called on to speak out on, and that was taping executive sessions. Contrary to the fact of insulting the staff members or not listening to them, this is, if any of you have listened to Peter Nerona's Open Government and Open Meeting, it's wonderfully posted on their website for the Attorney General's office, and this is something that came up, and representatives and town councilmen were in the meeting and spoke about how they thought it was wonderful to have it in executive session. One woman said, I would not go into executive session without having a taped record of executive session. And it's not just for litigation, it's for any sort of possible violations. I was under the understanding that then the Attorney General could look at it. It does not have to be stored on a server. You might remember years ago, we used to have CDs that would be stored, which would have copies of these meetings. You will notice that the library comes to many workshops and other public meetings and keeps a record. And that record is because some of you, whether you're misstating it or misremembering it, but you are not saying what happened factually in that meeting. And, we all can make mistakes, but if you can go to a videotape or an audio tape, the public is better for it. Thank you.
Yes.
Patrick Cavanaugh, Winterberry Road. Really don't know where to begin. I brought a whole bunch of Narragansett Times articles that I was going to reference. I called the chief earlier today about having a possible video as well. And I moved into this town in 1974 when I was in 4th grade. My dad and my Uncle Jimmy, people that either know him or they don't, God rest both their souls. Murray Lugins and John Hickey was always on the other side of my dad and my Uncle Jimmy. There was always differences in policy, forever. My dad and my Uncle Jimmy, ever since Jimmy Carter ruined it for the Democrats, they became Irish Republicans and Tea Party folks, taxed enough already. So we were always on the other side of the Democrats all those years. And then both my dad and my Uncle Jimmy were elected to the school committee. I campaigned with my dad for years. After the school committee, my uncle was on the Rhode Island Constitutional Convention. He was elected to that. And my dad ran against the Bill O'Neill in Narragansett, who was a senator forever. He lost by like 200 votes. And my dad ran against Roger Pearson for the House of Representatives, lost by 200 votes. Knocked on thousands of doors over the years. Went to millions of debates with my dad and my Uncle Jimmy. And Republican or not, myself and my dad and my Uncle Jimmy, we always went over to the Democratic national headquarters, or not national, but Democratic headquarters in town, and shook their hands and said, congratulations. It was not personal. There was no name calling. It's so different than what it used to be in this town. It's called not just decorum, but it's called respect for the other person. I've come to these town meetings since I was in 8th grade, basically, when I started with my dad. And ever since this library thing started, there is no respect among you folks to each other. There's absolutely no respect for the audience to the people that stand here and speak. They get shouted down, they get snide comments behind their backs. People just have lost all respect. My dad brought me up, my parents, my mom, my Uncle Jimmy, I watched it, I lived it. We never got into shouting matches and screaming and hollering with Murray and John Hickey and Ted Wright. They were always on the liberal side, and my dad and my Uncle Jimmy were always on the conservative side. But it never got personal. They could disagree with policy, but as soon as the meeting was over, shook hands, had a cup of coffee, and we could talk to each other. The audiences have been horrible through this library issue, as well as your folks. You know, when you tell your kids that's an inside voice, like keep it in your head, don't actually voice it, y'all should take that as a rule of thumb. Don't bait each other. Don't bait the folks out here. Keep it on policy. You can disagree on policy, but you cannot be ignorant. You cannot be disrespectful to each other. If you all don't have respect for each other, they're not going to have respect for you as well. So I was going to talk about financial issues tonight, about the library, and not the library itself. Everybody, all of you guys want a library, and all these people want a library, whether it's where it is now or 200 feet across the parking lot. Nobody wants to take away a library. These parents have marched these kids up there crying, "Where my library?" You're going to have a library at the end of the day.
Thank you.
So I'm just asking the audience and you guys, take a look in the mirror, have a little bit more respect for each other, even though you differ on policy. Thanks, appreciate it.
I'd like to make a comment. This is not an ideology problem. This is narcissism problem. That's the problem.
Exactly, Pat. Just inside voice. Inside voice.
Not ideology.
Pat, you know, I'm friends with you. I'm friends with Matt. I've known Joe for a little while. I don't know Rich and Jesse as well, but I can be friends with you guys even if I disagree with you on a policy. It doesn't mean you have to call each other names. It doesn't mean you have to dig at each other, because it doesn't help the process here.
Thank you.
Or us.
Thank you. Thank you. In the back is there, and then Pat. I don't think he has. I think he spoke on the last item.
Hey, Stephen Bellis, 8 Baldwin Court. With regard to that library that the gentleman was just speaking of, about 6 or 7 months ago, the town council, or some of you members, stated that you wanted a state-of-the-art library, and you had an RFP coming in a couple weeks. We've never seen it since. So I think that's kind of disingenuous because it was never even brought up again. And if you cut the budget in half for the existing library, what is that all about? Okay, now, this other comment is directed at all council members. I just want to pull up my electronic Bible application. And I'd like to ask you again to please swear that none of you or your family members will benefit from the sale of the Belmont building.
Thank you. I'm not benefiting financially or my family from any decision I've made up here. So.
This is probably costing me my marriage, this whole library question.
Yeah.
I would like to, Pat Brady again, 156 Boston Neck Road. I would like to go back to the membership of the new fundraising campaign chaired by Terrence and Sue Murray, as listed in the paper. They appear to be a very respectable and responsible collection of people. Jimmy Bennett, the co-chair, is my next-door neighbor, and I consider him a friend. And I hope this funding group will support the renovation of the existing library. However, going down the membership list, I noticed a Rosalind Sinclair as a member. Isn't that the same Sinclair, a part of the so-called library gang, who was thrown out of this June 3rd council meeting for her vulgar, vicious, lying, slanderous attack against me and my support for the library renovation? It only takes one rotten apple. But it didn't stop there. The library posted their video of the meeting on YouTube. My statements were muffled, and closed caption words were substituted with some four-letter words to discredit me and make me look disoriented. Rosalind Sinclair's attack was a muffled an attempt to cover up her attack against me. The so-called library gang is alive and well. Only after I confronted Patty Arkwright with the vile closed captions did she agree to remove the closed caption lies from the video. And finally, the existing library can be expanded with a second floor and a small addition, increasing the square footage from 9,000 to 20,000 square feet, close to what the library board wants, contrary to what the library board says. There is enough room on the west lawn of the library for an additional 17-car parking area, bringing the total number of spaces up to 65, only 3 short of at the Gilbane property. We need to proceed with an RFP to renovate and expand the existing library. The library board needs to stop their senseless obsession with the Gilbane building and join in making our library what it can be. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Oh.
Hello, Samuel Judd, Reference and Information Services Librarian at the library. As the video camera person, I would like to say, as I explained to him, those captions were automatically applied by YouTube. When he told me about it, I did immediately take those down. I have also purchased a microphone for the camera in response to his attack against us, stating that we were intentionally muffling his voice. Our camera is not nearly as high-tech as your camera because we don't have nearly the funds that you have. So I would appreciate it if you would not attack us and our attempts to highlight the truth of these meetings. Thank you.
That's why not all recording equipment is the same, as we've learned earlier tonight. Is there anyone else for public comment? Stan?
Stan Wachowski. I get confused, I guess, sometime. I hear that the budget was cut. I didn't think the budget was cut. I thought it was made to use the surplus. I thought they took the surplus to apply it to the budget. And yet all I hear, the budget was cut, the budget was cut, the budget was cut. No, the budget wasn't cut. The surplus was used to make up the funds at this particular time. And I've always been anti-surplus. I don't like to see an excess surplus in any town account because I figure that's a step to spend money needlessly. So I'm so happy that you use the surplus to operate your funds. So I don't like to hear stuff like that. The other thing is there is 12,557 voters, registered voters in this town. 5,901 voted for the library. To me, that calculates about 41%. 41, not 67. Every time I hear 67, it just seems like a fake news type thing that we're trying to, 67, 67, 67. No, if you don't go, if you're a voter, and if you don't go to vote, that's a no. You didn't vote. Tough. You didn't go, that's a no vote. You didn't hit a yes. That's automatically a no vote. That's the way it goes, and that's what's going to, that's the way I see it. You don't go, it's a no. My brother did that. He says, oh, I don't like Trump, so I didn't go vote. I said, you should at least went to vote, okay? Now all these no votes are there. So let's try to not muddle the waters here. 41%. That was the key there. On the other issue, I just want to say that I did want to thank the Murray Foundation, and I tried to thank them by saying I want to copy them. I also want to say that when they did the school grass thing, when they did that issue with the grass, I donated $500 to it. So I mean, I support him. I like what he does. I supported him, and I thanked him. The way I thanked him, I gave him $500, and I thank him again. And I don't know how many dollars. I don't know why Mike might not give me the money this time. I don't know, but he's done a good thing, and we got to follow suit and have people give their spare money to the library every time they say they want it. Come and give some money. Thank you very much.
Thank you. You already spoke during public comment, right? So, Suzanne, okay, go ahead.
Susan Amoruso, West Bay Drive. I really wasn't going to speak, but I can't have it end on that. I made this point prior, way back. This whole thing about analyzing the vote, how many people voted, blah, blah, blah. If you care, you show up, you vote. And that's how an election is run, because we could take it one step further. We could say, oh, all those people didn't show up. You guys, none of you belong in office. So what are we going to do? Second guess every single election. And the biggest thing is I have yet to find a town that has not honored a bond issue that has been passed by a significant majority of voters. I haven't even found a town yet. I can't find it. I'm looking for it. I've been checking around. Can't even find something where it was 52%, where they didn't honor what the voters wanted. We made a commitment. The problem is you are not representing the town. We decided it. You can disagree with it, but you have to go with the majority. Otherwise, somebody said, why vote on a bond issue? We want sewers. You could say, I don't think so. It doesn't make sense. We voted. You show up, you vote, you care. So you can't do this analyzing of votes. Somebody gives you basically money through reimbursement for the state, reimbursement for, pledges and stuff. I mean, this library, how many towns would love to have this kind of money flowing into them for a library project? We are so lucky, and I wish the three of you could figure out just how fortunate we are in Narragansett to have, as the Reader's Digest said, the nicest library staff, the nicest place, and it's the staff that won that designation through their contest. And we're waiting to see how we did nationally. And rumor has it we might be in the top 10. So that speaks volume about this institution that you don't want to endorse. People love this town. They love this library. And we're not, I hate to say it, I'm not a gang, I'm not a mob, but what I am is I am a concerned voter. And I believe in participating in government. And that's why I get up here and speak, maybe too often, but I just can't remain silent while this is going on. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? All right, seeing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion approved 5-0.
Smoke 'em if you
Good
got
night,
'em.
everybody.